it gets insane by season 3 is where it like chef's kisses, right? And then everything after that. Season 1 doesn't have a lot of money. Season 2, but season 1, 2, and 3 have probably the most Shakespeare stuff in them. So
right,
especially the first episode, you're gonna love Encounter at Farpoint with Q. Mm-hmm.
I mean, anything with Shakespeare, like, come on.
I mean, like literally Q. I sent you that one time where Q's sitting back and he's just trolling the whole crew because he's like an omnipotent Loki, and he's like all the galaxy's a stage, and right. He's just fucking with people. So
I love it. All right, folks, we are live again. Join us live. God debates all day and all night. Boom. Boom, chicka boom.
Boom. Chicka boom.
Boom. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, by Glauglian Ong. Thought we would go a little bit earlier for our friends in different time zones today.
Mm-hmm. So you say?
Well, you believe in God yet, Thomas?
Yes, me. It's me.
Boom. I said a boom, chicka boom. I said a boom, chicka wah, chicka rock, chicka boom. Yeah.
Wiki wiki.
Yeah. Wiki wiki woo wee. Put them in the air. I'll hit up our favorite God believers.
Get Brody's ass in here.
Yeah. Brody. Fantastic. It's the Trayster, the Traderooski. Trey.
What's up? How's it going?
Peace and grease, my brother.
We are chilling and killing and whatnot.
Max chilling.
Reese's Pieces. What up, skeptics and scoundrels? Let me give everyone the Discord invite link. So, Trey, you went and slept on it, and now you're an atheist. Fantastic.
Fully converted.
Fully converted.
A born-again atheist.
That's hilarious. I mean, I love it. No, where did we leave off last time? Before we got so rudely interrupted by the lighthearted banter of the Pangburn universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it?
Get out of here, humor. We don't want none of you.
Yeah. You're poisoning the heavy-hearted well.
Heavy-hearted whale.
It's just a well full of pessimism.
It is.
Fantastic.
Does anybody in Canada have like a kind of like a country accent like that? Can you do a country accent?
In Canada, I mean, if I'm going to do a full-on country accent, it's going to sound something like this. You don't step on me and I won't step on you, son. No, in Canada, we have what's way more hilarious, which is the Newfie accent, the people from Newfoundland. That's the thing that people make fun of, like in South Park, when they're like...
Is that the A? Or no,
well,
okay, that's the different one.
No, the A is kind of everywhere, kind of. Well, like if I say, oh man, it's a nice day, eh?
Yeah, that's more like
that's very Canadian.
Gingerly. Like, yeah. But if you really put the
stank
like, on it, you know, eh?
Like that's more of a American comedy thing. But if you listen to Newfoundland accents, it's way harder to understand than a thick Irish accent. Way harder to understand. Like look up a strong Newfie accent and you tell me what that person is saying. It is not Pig Latin is way easier to understand. And
what you're telling me is it's skewed.
I literally mean pig speaking Latin is easier to understand than fucking the Newfie accent. Yeah. No, I mean the big question here is, I think Trey suspects that atheists in general are not truly open to experiences with God, because if they were, they would be having experiences with God just like him, because there's nothing necessarily special about Trey, even though I love him. But if we were truly open to it, Thomas, we would be having all kinds of experiences that we would attribute to God. Is that right, Trey?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the church, so you know what I mean? I understand very deeply what someone means when they say they feel God. I've been around them while they feel it. I've been near it. I have never felt that way in church, but like plenty of times that I've been out in nature by myself, and I'm not saying nature is God. I'm just saying I've been out in nature by myself many times, and like I know what the nervous system does. This is the stuff that I study vehemently, and I mean, literally, whenever you feel connected interdependently with everything around you, especially in the woods, whenever like the trees and the wind's blowing through the trees, and you can literally feel the ground beneath your feet, and like you can just like wave your hand through the air, and it just feels like everything is magical. And like that's something that our nervous system does no matter what the belief system is. You can get that in Reiki or believing in aliens. You know what I mean? Some people would probably look up at the sky and think, you know, I'd love to be abducted by aliens and find a new world, and wouldn't that be magical? Our nervous system can do that in many different combinations of being able to get in that zone, if you want to call it that.
Unless they probe you with a big black probe.
That's what you're looking for.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would be open to it. I was literally saying this the other day, just to go off the alien tangent for a second. But by the way, what Thomas said was beautiful and perfect. But the alien tangent for a second. The reason why I say I would love to be actually probed by an alien, because then I would be able to verify that there are other aliens out there, you know, actually doing experiments on it. If I literally came back and the probe was still in there, like marinating, like I would just have definitive proof, I think, at that point. But then someone was like, Trav, you were probably dreaming and you did that to yourself. I mean,
like, Trav, I think you stuck that up your own butt. I think that's what happened.
I don't know if people would believe you that you got taken up.
They wouldn't. Of course, they would have all the best reasons in the world not to believe me, right? So, yep. And that actually, I mean, it does connect to the. So basically, to summarize, Thomas, what you just said, you believe God is nature.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm fucking Spinoza. That's exactly what I said. Yeah, that's what I said.
Just like straw man.
Or wait, you were trying to tell us that wasn't. Oh, okay. Sorry.
I would never dilute Christians' claims to. Yeah, it's just nature. That's a straw man. You know what I mean? The best formulations of God are philosophically argued for and usually associated with great love. And so I would never disabuse my mom from trying to like convert her or anything. She does wonderful things in her life. Believing in God is good for her. And so I want her to, you know what I mean? In that sense. But as far as I've experienced my existence on this planet, I have entered those states many a time. And first person phenomenological experience is good. The fact that I experienced that out in the woods is not fake. It's not fake.
Right.
But it's not public empirically verified evidence. And there's a difference. We can have something be phenomenologically true and real. And like a narrative is true and real. It functionally affects us. But is it public empirical physical data? No. Could it one day perhaps be? Yeah. But I mean, I've been in church growing up in Southern Baptist, Methodist, and all kinds of stuff, and being around people who were in these states. And literally, I felt as though when I looked at them, that was the same thing, body language and everything, that I was feeling out in the woods when I'd go stay out there by myself for hours when I was a kid, all the way up until like the age 14 and 15, just exploring the woods and being out there.
Also known as elation, euphoria. These kinds of things.
There's more to it than that.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's also like the time seemingly standing still, like these kinds of
That's part of it. Yep.
But yeah, you described
when your
nervous
nervous
system
is super attuned at that level. Sorry.
No, you.
Sorry. Whenever your nervous system is attuned at that level, things do feel magical. They do.
Mm-hmm.
They do feel magical. I'm not talking about like tripping on psilocybin, although that is pretty magical.
He did drugs. You can throw him in jail. Straight to jail.
Exactly. But like you can get to those states in altered states of consciousness, but you don't need it. You know what I mean? People who stand in the pews and pray and hold hands with their church members beside them, and they all get in this. It's not delusion. It is a public nervous system state that everyone gets into, and it's not. I'm not reducing it just to atoms and nervous systems. I'm saying there's more to that phenomenological experience, but that can be shared. Atheists always use the going to concerts thing.
Yep.
Yes, but whenever you're not worshiping the band as a god, I would hope that you aren't. And so there's a different feeling when you raise your nervous system to that level. I am connecting with the ultimate. That is, that's kind of how I felt out in nature, and things do become magical. I mean, you literally can just like feel the air around you and things like that. But then, of course, many different people have many different nervous system states that are represented by them in language many different ways. But like, well, I felt this when I communed with God, or when I became one with His presence, or when I, however any single one Christian wants to define that. But we do know that we can enter these states naturally. As long as we are allowed to feel that interdependent system nature of everything around you. You touch a tree and you realize that your hand is obviously different than the tree. My hand is still my hand, the tree is the tree. But if we were to go down low enough, philosophically, quantum mechanics shows us that it's quantum fields. And so therefore there is a separation between you and the tree, but if we go down low enough, there is not. Mm-hmm. And so and of course, scientists would be like, "Oh, that's crazy, Thomas." No, I mean, I'm just making a philosophical point, not a scientific point.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the idea
you're making an experiential point.
Yes, an experiential phenomenological point. We are in a quantum ocean. And that may not be the lowest, and we may not completely understand it, but like everything that makes up that tree makes up you. Same stuff, right? It's just different rearrangements and accordances of all the different particles and fields and everything. Does that mean that we are that? No, but like the connection to everything is the big thing. God allows the idea of God is allowing us to connect to other people who worship and things like that, and that is a big part of what our nervous system looks for, is interdependent connection. And some people who are really spiritual can enter those nervous system states, like preachers who you see speaking in tongues and things like that. Those states aren't fake phenomenologically. They're just not probably attributed to the right things, I would say. But I could be wrong.
What do you think, Trey? Just going to fill my water.
You don't think that people can speak in tongues, Thomas?
To be honest, it's possible.
Have you ever been to one of those places?
Hang on 1 second. I got you low a little bit. Have I ever been to what now?
One of those places where they speak in tongues.
So I traveled with friends, to other churches like Church of God and things like that. I don't know all the denominations that do that. Is it Pentecostal that mainly does that, or is there other ones? I'm not really sure about those traditions.
I really have no idea.
I don't either. Really that great. I haven't looked at all the different. There's 30,000 so denominations probably in the United States. A shitload. Don't hold me on that number, but as far as like the speaking in tongues, I mean, I don't believe that it is. It would be rare if two preachers speaking in tongues understood each other, or understood that was the correct language to use when speaking in tongues. I think that we could probably show that it would be so different that we wouldn't be able to externally tell what was going on inside of their body phenomenology. So,
everybody, well, let me ask you: Are you seeking God if you haven't been to a church where they speak in tongues?
That's a good question. I usually don't answer binaries. I'm not saying that you're asking it like a silly way or anything, but like, I would have to have an aggregate of a ridiculous amount of evidence and also phenomenological experience of mine to say, okay, I've seen these multiple preachers and this evidence lines up. It'd be a lot of different things all together coming together to give me a view on what I think about that. It could be possible that 1 out of the 10 trillion people who are speaking in tongues are actually communicating with a God or with spirit, the Holy Spirit or whatever it may be. I don't know. But in terms of what I've seen, what I've studied, and what I know about human nervous systems, it's most likely not the case.
But are you even trying to be a Christian if you haven't been to one of those churches?
See, that's the thing. Should we exhaust entirely every possible Christian tradition to see if one of them might be the case? That's the issue with science as well. Like, I mean, we only have so much time on the earth. I can't go and interview every single Christian on the planet. And the issue usually becomes, there's that old atheist saying of, well, either one God is true or all of them, are untrue or whatever. I think it's a little bit crazier than that. It's either one specific person's interpretation of God is correct or none of them are. I don't know if that's a real good binary to hold to, but like it points out the idea that one person, like in the church that I grew up in, Methodist church, many different people when I was a kid would tell me about like the different ways that they viewed God. Some people were close enough to my parents, but there was always discrepancies and I noticed them. Even in how they viewed like the Lord's Prayer, you know what I mean? Or like John 3:16 or 1 Peter 3:15 or Romans 13, the love passage. So like, it can be pretty damn close, but if we're looking for like exact empirical evidence, I would need to see like thousands of Christians believing the exact same thing, and like the exact same thing, like mathematically. And then we could go somewhere from there. But as far as like, and like I said, I'm not discounting phenomenological data as data. Some people in the science community would be like, no, that's trash. That's just your opinion. Okay, well, phenomenological data is important.
Yes.
Right? Firsthand experience is important. It is a part of the evidence pool, just like testimony is a part of the evidence pool. It's actually one of the best parts if it's organized properly and recorded properly. So, yeah, I don't know the answer to that question, Trey. I would have to have so much aggregate data to know, which one is actually speaking in tongues or whatever else.
But I'm not even asking that. How y'all started y'all started this by saying, jokingly probably, that I think Trey doesn't believe that we are open to.
Oh yeah, that's Travis.
God. So yeah. I think for you to be open to God, you need to go to one of these churches that speaks in tongues, and you need them to tap you on the head when they say their little. So
scripture. You think they're full of shit, Trey?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I lean that way as well, but I'm not going to make an absolute claim and say that they're not speaking to God because they're making the same style of phenomenological claim that somebody says when I prayed, I felt God. It's not, one is more seemingly ridiculous than the other because one of them, the other one, the praying one is so common. What if most of Christianity spoke in tongues?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you said something like if there may be one person on planet Earth that has it right. Yeah, I guess we can't count that out. But I do think when I watch that stuff on TV, it makes me laugh, and I think that's part of the euphoria that they feel. Like y'all were talking about, that maybe they feel this surge of endorphins or whatever in their head, and they want to be with the crowd and they want to be in the moment, and then the preacher touches them on the head, and then they fall, and they're cleansed, and it's like a
so you don't think there's anything believable about this as far as like being consistent with anything we would expect the Christian God to be involved in?
Personally, I don't think that any preacher in the world can say a sermon or something, touch me on the head, and I am so overwhelmed with the Spirit that I just fall to my.
Where did they get this? Yeah, where do you think they get this idea, though?
Oh man,
I looked into it one time, but I can't remember. Sorry, Trey.
I don't know, man. But I kind of want to. I've always wanted to like just go to one and see, but
Yeah.
I've heard that stuff like that is kind of culty, so you need to watch out.
It is. It
So
is.
I kind of picture it like, have you ever been to a used car salesman?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I have.
That's not a bad interpretation, honestly. It really isn't, because a lot of them, even if some of them are getting into those states and really feel that way, I would imagine a lot of them are not conning. Maybe some of them are conning, but just faking it till they make it kind of thing. You know what I mean? So that is
100%.
culty.
I do.
Yep.
I tend to think, and I've heard sermons before in church that I, through my pattern recognition, I'm like, this sounds like a used car salesman.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I'm
Not
getting
every preacher
credentials.
or speaker in tongues is going to be a truly honest human about what they're feeling and what other people are feeling, because they care more about, many different things other than just being honest with themselves and others.
Geo, welcome. You now are able to mute and unmute and join the conversation. I gave you the proper credentials here, or you should be able to now. Sorry. And I'm going to give Wavepoint the proper speaking credentials as well.
And I guess that's I haven't heard any prominent, let's say, atheist talk like that. Like, listen, atheism is so great that your life will change and you will accomplish, any goal that you set your mind to, and all you got to do is follow these teachings and this and that, and they blow your mind up and fill it up with all this gas, right? And then you kind of just start believing. I don't know of any atheist that has been a car salesman like that, but I've definitely heard sermons like it, and I think that's probably what the whole speaking in tongues is probably.
Probably a part of it, yeah. For sure.
I mean, because atheist, like selling, you're not really selling people anything with atheism. A lot of people feel like it when they first, especially that they lose. I mean, when people deconstruct, they suffer a lot of loss. Actually, sometimes their community. Sometimes they eventually get past that and get over that. But like I've heard a lot of people deconstructing. That's where they struggle a lot. Is with the feeling of loss of the things that they feel like they've lost. And so it's definitely
a lot of those kind of charlatan preachers and stuff will prey on people's vulnerabilities.
Yeah, so like atheism, you're kind of not selling anybody anything. You're actually, a lot of people feel like that, that they're losing something. I think.
Should atheism be selling something?
No.
Atheism itself. This is why I only talk about my atheism when in the context of these kinds of conversations. Like, I'm just dead set. It's just more important to be promoting maximizing well-being for humanity and oneself. So it's like atheism is just in reference to a position held with regards to propositions that gods exist. The academic, just for the record for people listening, the academic usage, the classic usage in academia, if you are an atheist, that means you believe there are no gods. But in the more pop usage of atheism, it's treated as a lack of belief, in that someone makes the claim gods exist, and then the atheist is in this position of, I just don't believe that claim, and they feel like they're not making a positive claim that there are no gods. So that's where you get Gnostic atheism, where Gnostic atheists would claim that they know there are no gods and also are an atheist. And then there's an agnostic atheist, who is someone who doesn't claim to know either way if there are gods or not, but they still lack a belief in gods. Now, the pop, those pop usages aren't the academic usages, but there's this disconnect between what's going on in academia with regards to the treatment of the conceptualization of atheism and what's going on in the more popular world, in the larger scope of atheism in practice. So there's a disconnect there. And obviously words don't have intrinsic meaning. They have usages. There's not meaning passed on from high, from God. So in cases like this, I think it's important to point out both usages. I just wanted to check Gio's mic. Gio, did you want to speak a little bit just to make sure your mic's working? And then it says just reading the room for the moment. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, you can unmute whenever you have something to say. It's all very open. Same with you, WavePoint.
No pressure.
And it seems like Gio might be a Christian.
Mic check.
Yeah, we can hear you nice and clear. So you're no worries. You're a Christian, Gio?
Yes, I'm transitioning from Inquirer to Catechumen. So I guess I would be leaning most toward Eastern Orthodoxy.
Okay.
What do you think about Eastern Orthodoxy, Trey?
I don't know what the difference is on that stuff, to be honest. I think I've heard Andrew Wilson say that he's some kind of Orthodox, but I don't really know the difference.
Oh, okay.
I'd love to hear about it.
It's exactly the very same belief system, but I'm below his authority because I have not gone to the parish, gone through my catechumen and all that. You would call me an inquirer. So I don't minister. I don't hold any authority. So most of what I discuss, I do appeal to church consensus.
Okay. And what are your Gio, what are your justifications for believing in the existence of God?
Just on the belief of God itself. I would always go with tag, to be honest.
Okay.
It's where I find most comfort as far as, accepting my finite understanding. But I'm sure that there are many other ways to arrive at a conclusion. But pretty much logic and arithmetic is how I ground God.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. That's the transcendental argument for God, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, nice.
Wait a minute. What did they say? I'm sorry.
Tag
is where tag. Okay. Yeah. Tag is basically saying that God is the underpinning of all normativity or logic.
Yep.
So.
And then for me, as someone who holds a empirical standard the way I do, I would say, demonstrate that to me in some way that that's necessarily the case. And I guess I would be looking for, to give me high confidence that that's the case within my epistemic framework. I would ask for, things that correspond with reality. So if the proposition that this is where God is, I would want to see the correspondence. I would want to see the object relation to that proposition to make it real, in my view. And and I'm willing to take personal testimony. I believe testimonial evidence is a kind of evidence. So I'm open to all of that. But as far as logic is concerned, I don't think logic necessitates the existence of a God.
Well, do you believe that God can contradict himself, like create a rock he can't lift, or consume a meal he can't finish?
If God is all powerful, then I think God would have the power, because if he's actually all powerful, he would have the power to create such things. Now, the way I think of that problem, like a rock too heavy for God to lift, God could create, I think, a rock too heavy for him to lift, but at any moment, God could just decide, okay, this experiment's over, I'm going to lift this rock. Does that make sense?
So you're saying God can go against his own nature?
Sure, why not? He's all powerful. He goes against his own nature for for a game, and then the game's over.
Basically, if you want to dig down to the ultimate level, if God can defy the laws of logic, there really isn't too much further we can go. If God is it's kind of like the euthyphro for logic. It's if God is subject to the laws of, or to the nature of logic. The laws of logic are us. The nature of what logic is non-humanly. If God is subject to that, then logic is technically is above God. That's a very simple way of saying it. But if God creates logic, or he's the foundation of all logic, then he can do whatever he wants to. I mean, like, he can destroy himself and then remake himself from being completely nothing. So I don't really know, where the conversation goes if God is the deemer or the foundation of all logic and can be logically contradictory. That's going to be a difficult conversation.
Yeah, like for example, like what I heard him just tell me is that 2 + 2 is indeed 4, but to someone else it could be 5.
I mean, I think it's at least possible that to an advanced alien it could be 5. If we're talking about simply modal possibility.
Yeah, but we're not debating. No, we're talking. We're just making sound. So I'll grant it for sure. For the sake of argument, yes. The reptilians could be on the 3 + 3 = 9.
Sure. Yeah. I'm just saying I'm teasing at a problem I see in epistemology constantly, where people think that possibility ought weigh into their epistemic standards, and I think that's a drastic error. That should not.
There is nothing, as far as we know of, that we can deem truly, absolutely impossible. We don't know enough about the universe or existence or anything else to be able to say, yeah, that is impossible. That is a hell of a claim to say something is impossible completely, right? We can colloquially say, your example, Michael Jackson dancing on the surface of the sun. That's pretty much impossible by all colloquial standards. But if we're getting down to like quantum mechanics and measuring probabilities and statistics, it's not absolutely impossible. Right. And so that is the thing about, modal possibility within the logical and metaphysical spheres. You have to be really careful about claiming true, absolute impossibility.
I disagree.
Okay.
I've got a question about the Michael Jackson thing I've been thinking about today.
Yeah.
So if it was actually Michael Jackson, then it would have to be the same thing. And he obviously wouldn't be able to be on the sun without burning up. So how does that work out?
Quantum mechanics does actually allow for that probability. We can add to this. We can add what is the probability within the realm of quantum mechanics that Michael Jackson is moonwalking across the surface of the sun right now, not being burnt at all. Now we're starting to get
and
into
also
like one
has
to
all the same experiences that
all
make
the same,
him.
All the same experiences, the exact same guy, Michael Jackson. The number is going to be like 1 to the power of a Googleplex, like one chance in 10 to the power or 10 times a Googleplex, basically. So it's going to be like it's essentially, so what someone wants to say is almost certainly impossible. Right. But we can't say impossible because it's just not logically coherent. Because when you start trying to justify that position, you're going to say things that are logically fallacious, like, well, because I can't think of a way that could be, or nobody has thought of a way that could be, and we seemingly can't even imagine how that ever could be the case. So that means I'm justified in knowing that it's absolutely never going to be the case. That's an argument from incredulity fallacy.
Yeah.
So
it's just the different layers of logical necessity, metaphysical necessity, and epistemic necessity. There are many different layers of modality and philosophy. So technically, it's considered physically impossible for Michael Jackson to be dancing on the moon. But it is not logically impossible because it doesn't contradict itself.
See, so
so
I go one step further. So I go one step further than what Thomas just said. I'm saying that we can't rule it out to be physically impossible. I don't think we can rule it out, because again, if someone says, well, why can't it be physical? Well, based on the way physics is right now and our understanding of physics, that means it's impossible. It's like, well, isn't it at least possible that tomorrow something could happen that contradicts that? And then if someone says no, and then I ask, why do you believe that's impossible? What's your justification? They again are going to make the argument from incredulity fallacy. That's going to be their justification.
The only way that you're right, sir, respectfully, is if you're not using classical logic. Because would you agree that things
Nope.
like
This is consistent with classical
are not a
logic.
factor in quantum mechanics? Wait, well, I'm kind of learning with you guys a few things, because I don't really argue quantum mechanics because my name is not Sheldon Cooper, but I love the show. It's fascinating. But in regards of the fundamental laws of classical logic, identity, what is it?
Excluded middle, the logical absolutes,
and non-contradiction, right? Within quantum mechanics, I had to look it up. I'll be honest, but it's called superposition and contradiction. A particle in a superposition is not simultaneously A and not A in a logical sense. Rather, it possesses a probabilistic vector of potential measurement. So, object in motion, right?
So none of that matters, though.
All these variables. You're speaking of potentiality, so it's more like causality than making a logical or observation.
It's just maybe you're overthinking.
There's no there literally is no escape, seemingly, from what I'm saying. It
like
doesn't matter.
Fly versus throwing a bird like a football and measuring the speed.
I don't understand that.
Like, don't make what I think what Travis has the biggest issue with is the certainty claim of, like, you know what I mean, like you cannot rule something out.
So certainty, so true certainty, capital C certainty is almost certainly unattainable. That's my first maxim. That's my fallibilist maxim, and so far, no one's been able to even come anywhere close to defeating that maxim and demonstrating it not to be the case. So,
by maxim, do you mean paradox?
Nope. A maxim is just a short statement about reality. So certainty is almost certainly unattainable. Applies to itself, applies to fallibilism, applies to everything. And the problem is, like I said, no matter how you want to slice it, if you want to stand here and put your flag in the ground and say the logical absolutes are absolutely certain, incontrovertibly so, this is a dogma, I believe, it's impossible for them to be incorrect. And then an asshole like me comes along and says, but isn't it at least possible that the logical absolutes could be shown to be contradictory or incorrect tomorrow? And the person would say, no. And then it's like, well, why do you believe that? Because I can't think of any way it could be. Math hasn't thought of any way it could be contradicted. Physics hasn't thought of any way. So that means I am justified. That's argument from incredulity fallacy.
Okay, so if I can offer you a small, short, one statement hypothetical.
Sure.
Do I know I have parents, or do I believe I have parents?
Knowledge doesn't require certainty.
Yeah. So this is going to be the biggest, and I'm glad you're asking this question.
So show me an argument where who I identify as my mother, I went and came with from the canal, is not my mother.
So it doesn't matter if I can demonstrate that or not. You cannot be absolutely certain about it, because at the end of the day, when I ask you what your justifications are, and you say it's impossible for me to be wrong about that, and I ask you why, you're going to say because you can't imagine how it couldn't be the case.
Yeah, but I'm not giving you an ought. I'm giving you an is, right? So
this isn't about. There was no prescription. No, hang on. There was no prescription said by me. You're trying to do some is ought shift. We're still in what is going on in reality. There's no ought.
It's my hypothetical, right? So hypothetically, do I know my mother, or do I believe I have a mother?
Well, that depends on your epistemics. What is your epistemic foundation? What are your epistemic values?
I came from her birth canal.
Do you know that?
There's documentation. There's genealogy. There's
fair enough. Those are your justifications. But I'm asking
variables.
I'm just asking,
like my brother.
Yeah. I'm just asking you your position though. Do you know that? Do you know that you came from your mother?
Yes.
Okay, great, fantastic. And what are your standards of knowing? Your epistemic standards.
Biology.
Okay.
Conception.
Science is a way of knowing. Fantastic. So you rely on empiricism by way of correspondence criteria of truth made primary. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you rely on correspondence criteria of truth
history.
in your, and then you rely on evidence and okay. So that's your structure. Now, is it, do you think you need to have absolute certainty, or I would say the illusion or delusion of absolute certainty, in order to know that you came from your mother?
No, because I can argue repetition and consistency.
Fantastic.
One person, one humanoid has fed me, clothed me, cared for me. So as I wake up from my slumber as a 3-year-old, I wake up and I look for someone that I know, I identify, and believe to be my caregiver. And as I grow, my epistemology quantifies into, this is my paternal mother, I am her son, school's at 7. You know?
Yeah. No, that's cool, but that's not what I was asking. I was asking your confidence level, or, as people make a terrible mistake in epistemology, your level of certainty. I'm trying to tease out if you are a certaintist epistemically, like you think you have that absolute certainty is an attainable goal within your epistemics. Yes. And then yes. So you say yes. Okay. So what is it that you can be absolutely, incontrovertibly, dogmatically certain about?
No one on this planet can identify themselves as my biological mother, except one person.
Is it possible you are wrong about that?
In a hyperbolic way, I could have been swapped at birth, but to be swapped and still look like one of.
So you just said. So you just said.
Is also saying that based on like new science and like new things that we can know in the future, like somebody in the 2,000 years ago could have been like, "That's fucking impossible. There's no way." And then now we literally have like the thing that they said was impossible. So like that's also a part of what he's throwing.
So curiously, you just said.
So I definitely concede that paternity has been an issue until modern advancement. You know, like who's the father has been an issue for centuries.
But let's not get off the. Let's not. Let's not get off the important part, though. The important part here is that you seem to claim that you could know something with absolute, incontrovertible, dogmatic certainty. And then when I pressed you and asked you, is it possible that you were wrong about the statement you just made about your mother? You said, in some kind of way I could. So it doesn't sound like you're absolutely, incontrovertibly certain about that thing.
No, I'm making a direct knowledge claim based upon justified truth and belief. All three.
Justified true belief. But don't fall away from the important part. I'm looking at the piece of how confident you are and how certain you feel you are. You mentioned a second ago that you believe you have attained absolute, incontrovertible certainty, in that it's impossible for you to be wrong. But then when I asked you if it's possible for you to be wrong, you weren't quite sure, which tells me that it is possible.
No, I'm very sure. What I'm not sure about is your approach, because I mean, according to all core theories of justification, methods of support, and anything else I can look up, I mean, I'm not seeing anywhere where I would be unconvinced.
No, we're not talking about convinced. Hang on. We're talking about having something that you believe to be incontrovertibly the case, in that, like, there are Christians out there that believe it's incontrovertibly the case, impossible to be wrong, not possible to be wrong about this, that Jesus is our Lord and Savior, for example. They will say something like that. And then I will say, are you sure it's not even the slightest bit possibly possible that you could be wrong about that in the most strangest, wild circumstance? And then some of them will say no, and then they believe they have a true dogma. And I would say, and when I ask them why they're justified in that, they're going to cite all of their reasoning, right, connected to Jesus and connected to how they feel about the validity of Scripture and all those things. And then I will say, okay, then is it possible that tomorrow an alien could come down and show you how that's actually not the case? And they'll say no. And then I'll say, why do you believe it's not even possible? They'll say, in one way or another, commit the argument from incredulity fallacy. because they'll say because they can't
Okay,
imagine it, they can't think of it, they can't think of how that could be. So then they feel justified in this absolutely certain position when really it's based on logical fallacy. But
May I ask what world you're arguing from? Like, obviously,
Yep.
like you see my background. It follows me on TikTok and every other, sphere of sound. I would argue that most people don't have a foundation for their belief, which is kind of almost similar to what you're arguing, but
I can
in the
give you
sense
mine.
of,
Yeah.
for example, like I accept finite understanding, and I hold unconditional belief of a transcendental God, but I do use logic prior to faith as far as my journey to Christianity, right? So when you arrive with logic first before faith is quite easier to accept.
Yeah, and all of that stuff you value because of how you feel about it.
No, not at all, because objective is mind independent and subjective is mind dependent. So
no, I'm talking about how you feel about objectivity and subjectivity. I'm giving you what modern cognition tells you about how your mind functions, just like every other human mind.
Well, okay, what part of your belief?
One sec, just let us go back and forth for a bit, Robin, and then I'll
church history and apostolic succession.
Yeah, so all of that stuff and all the stuff you've listed so far and everything else before that, you value that stuff because you feel it's valuable. That's what what modern cognitive science tells us.
I find utility in appealing to the Christian ethos by observation of other similar cultures.
You value utility.
I looked into
it was right there.
I looked into so I looked into Buddhism, atheism, Islam even, and across all of my understandings in regards of how assimilation is handled between America and other countries in regards of just a man leading a family, and I find highest utility within the Christian culture.
Yeah, because you value utility.
But if I can observe the culture,
that's fine. You value your observations, right?
Do you know what the difference between an is and an ought is?
Yeah, I'm talking about values right now, axiology.
Yeah, so the ethos of Christianity is what it is, right? I appeal to a standard above me, correct?
Yeah, all that stuff. All that stuff you value.
How I feel about it is that I'm definitely a sinner, and I hope to walk as closely as I can with God and preach the word to all those that will hear it. Right?
You just outlined your values. Yeah.
But my values aren't required for Christianity or its standard to be true.
I didn't say that it is. You based on your epistemic values, Christianity is true to you.
But what about my epistemic knowledge claim?
Yeah, all of those that knowledge is born of your values. You can't escape your values.
So if I disliked Christianity, would Christianity shift to a different standard and objectively become untrue because people do not prefer it as a lifestyle?
Well, people find different reasons as to why Christianity isn't true. For me, it just doesn't satisfy my epistemic standards. It's simply possible that Christianity is true. So I can give you my epistemic standards.
That how you feel about Christianity is how I feel about Christianity.
No. I don't know how you got that. I'm just pointing out the simple cognitive fact.
So what's the value in?
I'm pointing that. Just hang on. I'm speaking at a very fundamental level here of cognitive science. I'm saying that you and I both engage in value sorting by way of our sentiments, our feelings. And what I mean by that is there are propositions that come our way throughout the purview of our experience. Some of those propositions come our way by way of, moving through your community and something happens in front of you and there are events that happen and you will be engaging in value sorting through that entire thing. I'm just saying that the way you came to value Christianity is through the same system, the way that I came to value my current epistemic standards that caused me to disbelieve.
That's not true.
Well, that's what cognitive science tells us.
That logically cannot be true. So demonstrate how you can prove my mental state. As far as
I didn't say I could prove your mental state, dude.
Well, how did we both approach
you're pulling a straw man. You're pulling a straw man out of what I'm saying. I don't think you're following the conversation.
No, you just said that I came to my belief in the same way that you came to your belief. I'm asking you to justify that.
Yeah. Do I can send you, like, I'm not a cognitive scientist. Like, I appeal to, the scientific consensus of cognitive science, but something I have learned about cognitive science
is something called unconditional faith, and you don't use unconditional faith because you require
value
things like evidence.
Because you have a value that allows for unconditional faith.
Can you define unconditional faith for me?
No, I don't have to. I'm just saying you value it. You can define it. It's your concept. But I'm just saying, do you value
hang on,
unconditional faith?
So what if I told you that I despise that I don't drink anymore? I despise that I don't go clubbing every Thursday and Saturday.
Yep, that's a value.
And teach on Fridays, right? Because I operate under the Christian ethos, I have what's called integrity, doing the right thing, especially when no one's looking. Because to me, there's God watching, right?
Yep.
So I would value and accept a temporary satisfaction, like drinking, things that are secular in nature, but I choose to fasten my value system and go toward things that offer self-service. So in regards to
because you value things that...
hang on, if I can finish. Because I appeal to the betterment of others around me, my wife, my son, the Christian ethos helps me kind of put that in a box. Like, if you're not a Christian, then you really have no service ought to anyone but yourself. Look at the pillars of Satanism.
Wrong.
Right?
I can give you my ethical stance right now, and it's born of my sentiments the same way that your values are born of yours. So my...
Negative.
Yeah.
Mine's your objective to God. Yours are subjective to yourself.
Yeah, you can believe that, but cognitive science tells us otherwise. So my moral quest is to maximize well-being for myself, physical, mental, and social health, and those around me. So maximize well-being for myself and those around me. And by well-being, I mean physical, mental, and social health. And this is born axiomatically, by way of my sentiments again, out of this simple axiom that health is preferential to sickness. You believe that too.
Yeah, I loved Patch Adams. I believe that Robin Williams is a fascinating human being, right?
I think you're
describing.
I think you just completely missed what I was saying.
Proof.
I said, all I said was, you sir believe.
Is it sometimes
you sir believe that health is preferential to sickness?
All right.
No, you didn't respond to what you didn't respond to what I said. Yes, it is. Yeah.
If I may. Okay. So maybe at a different time, maybe we can continue this, but I don't have the time or patience to be overspoken this often.
Well, I think it's because you're not answering my points and questions.
A subscription.
Okay.
You definitely do a good job going against logic. And you've mentioned Andrew Wilson as well. So definitely keep on grinding and level up, and you'll get there one day, okay?
Okay.
But God bless you, sir.
No passive aggressive. Leave, please.
So I'll get there one day. I'll get there one day, according to him.
That went well.
So yeah, I mean, it was simple. I had answers for these questions, right? Like, what he didn't know anything, seemed like, about cognitive science. So, when I give the cognitive science grounding and the fact this destroys TAG, by the way, just destroys TAG once you start talking cognitive science, and that we're all on the same playing field, all of us human beings, we just all are cognitively, and then we engage in sentimental value sorting and selection process. and then we come to different conclusions. Like Trey or another Christian will be convinced into Christianity, or convinced to keep their Christian faith, because they don't only find it true, but they find it like ethically valuable. But yeah, once a secularist like me starts articulating my standard, and it's a standard that actually relates to the individual, that's where they begin to shut down. And it happened again today. So when I start pointing that, like, no, you and I are the same cognitively at the level we are talking about with regards to this value sorting, and then when I start with my axiom, health is preferential to sickness, and I say, and you value that too, sir, what the person should just say is, yeah, I value health over sickness. Of course he does. And then I can explain my system and that's where I get to, how do I encapsulate this universal axiom that's accepted by probably every human being that's ever lived, that had functioning cognition. And that's how I get to well-being. Maximize well-being for myself and those around me. By well-being, I mean physical, mental, and social health. I pick those things because there are facts about those things, and we can measure to those facts. And then that leads you to adopting science as a way of knowing, epistemically, by way of correspondence criteria, truth, empiricism, eventually science. Because that is where we are tasked to master human well-being, to master our understanding of physical, mental, and social health. So, but most of the conversations, I'm sure this guy probably does pretty well in the low resolution spaces debating against atheists and secularists. But if you're going to come in, for a high resolution discussion, you got to bring better goods than that. And if you're trying to dodge, and I'm not letting people dodge away from my questions or what I'm asking, or they're also like, creating little straw mans along the way, it's going to be really hard to have something that I would consider to be high resolution, fruitful discussion.
So I probably shouldn't have said leave, but the passive aggressiveness with people makes me feel so mad. Yeah. Like, I just do not like it. So a lot of what was going on there was descriptive, prescriptive issues, because is ought, right? A lot of the things are in, like, a lot of the people when they're talking to you probably like, well, everything bottoms out at values. What are you talking about? The non-human law of like F equals MA, the thing that's going on over there, that's not my opinion or value, right? But that's not what you're saying.
That's not what
you're
I'm saying at all.
Your values sort those things, and what you care about and what you will accept as evidence. That you aren't saying the universe is literally changing its descriptive laws.
No,
like that. It's
of course
anyway.
not. Yeah, but if I don't know, I think some people think they're a little slicker than they are, and I think that caller or participant should watch the
intelligence or anything. I think he's an intelligent person, but in terms of like passive aggressive argumentation and interruption and stuff, just to be honest with you guys, Travis likes to lay things out relatively concisely, and so in a debate, some people just like to literally jump in, like after 2 seconds of somebody saying something, to let's correct that really quick. Sometimes you have to listen to the whole thing before you can do that, because then it becomes a rhetorical battle rather than an ideologies attempting to understand each other and synthesize where they can and debate and disagree where they don't. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so sometimes we have to allow people to finish a little bit more of what they're saying.
Like at the end, all I was trying to do, it was my turn to lay out my system of values, and when I said, that health is preferential to sickness, and you believe that too, he said something about some movie. I like this movie as well, which had nothing to do with what I was saying. Mm-hmm. Maybe he was making a lighthearted joke, but I don't think it hit.
I think
it's okay.
No, wait a minute. I'll tell you, Trey. Travis, what he was doing was he was trying to insinuate that what he was talking about was objective. And so, like, when he said, I like this movie too, he was just saying, oh, well, that's subjective. You know what I mean? That was where he was coming. Like,
I know what he was trying to say. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Because, like, I mean, that's why he threw that part in there. Is like he was trying to insinuate that everything that you believed is subjective, and everything he believes is objective.
Yeah, but this is
what we were bringing up a moment ago about prescription and description and non-human laws and things like that. Like, the values sort the facts of reality; they don't create them.
Yeah, it's like, it's so hard. Like, they just don't understand that they just don't have justification for that objective claim. Like, they presupposition it, like, and assert it, but they can't justify it.
This was also somebody, though, if we remember earlier, who claimed that they believe that they're absolutely certain that their mother is his mother, which is a terrible example, by the way, because like even just like baby swapping, like is like an easy
in the future
explanation.
Where something in the future where like 10 mothers can have one child.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
exactly.
That's insane sounding right now, right? But maybe, right? That's the issue. Is that, like, if I go back to Greece when Socrates and Plato were rolling around, and I showed them, I don't know, a video game, right?
Yeah.
This is where we have to be careful about, like, the yet thing and future consequences and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so.
Yes, we do. No, but I hope they come back and call back and maybe not rage quit, even though their level of rage is very, very minor. Yeah.
I think a lot of it might have been that they're just not used to you laying out something relatively long based, and they get frustrated way too quickly and try to immediately correct or jump in rhetorically. And I just wanted to be like, why don't you just wait a second? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's all good.
It is all good.
Brr. Yeah.
I'm typing and talking same time. Both things.
Type, talk. No, that's impossible. You can't type and talk at the same time.
I know, right? It's impossible. How am I doing it right now? Impossible. The funny part is people do use that argument of superposition, of wave function superposition in quantum mechanics. And it is literally just a fallacy of division. What is true of the parts is not true of the whole. And so, like, in wave function superposition, they're in coherence, but it's in a quantum state. Whenever you have macro objects like Michael Jackson dancing on the moon, that is bouncing around trillions of other particles, and decoherence is happening everywhere. And so it's not like multiple states are happening. So it's one singular mathematical multi-stated event.
Yeah,
it's not literally A and not A at the same time. That is not happening.
Yeah, so. It's not, and it's also, it has nothing to do with the simple logical argument I'm making with regards to absolute certainty. It's just
Correct.
like of no consequence.
Yep. So it's Schrodinger's cat. You know, like that argument is used so much, even by Christians, to be like, well, then every possible, the many worlds interpretation, and like anything's possible and all this kind of stuff. Be like, no, because there's no law. It challenges the law of our understanding of the law of non-contradiction, but it does not break it because it's a singular physical state, mathematically represented by the wave function. So,
yeah.
Is anybody bored yet?
Not at all.
I'm just kidding. I'm about to go smoke a cigarette.
Evil. No smoking.
I am evil.
No, Thomas is allowed to smoke.
Smoke one for me.
His brain capacity requires it. Sorry, Robin. I wanted you to get some questions in, but I really, really wanted to go exactly where we went to. It was too bad they left, but we were getting to the good stuff there. Because we didn't even get to tag, right? Like, there are some fundamental assumptions baked into tag.
I don't think he was tracking what you were saying. Like, I think that, like, he was like, he came in like I really, you know what I mean, like he wasn't tracking what you were trying to point to.
That's because he's not used to debating educated people, I think, like well-educated people. So, and I don't mean to be an arrogant asshole in saying that, but there are academic ways of arguing this stuff, and I don't think he was tracking that.
He assumes that he has objective stuff, and like and he's trying to run like precept like stuff comedy, you know what I mean, like, and it's just not it's not a actual valid, you know. I mean, it's sort of like you it's sort of the kind of debating that's going on YouTube right now that maybe you haven't had to, like you said, be around too much.
Yeah, no, but unfortunately I sample it because I'm looking for new talent out there.
Yeah.
And it's,
well, you're like your buddy at the Think Institute, what, Joel. You know, Joel's a preceptor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The Think Institute, the Institute for Thinking.
Yeah, he precepts everything, you know, and he admits it. I mean, that's what he says. I'm a precept Christian apologist.
That's why I go to my. That's exactly why I went to my fundamental ethical presupposition there, and that's when the guy started leaving, because usually what happens with atheists who are not well educated in this is they won't know how to articulate their fundamental presuppositions, and they'll get tongue-tied in conversations with tag people or any presuppositionalists. And yeah, you guys can hear my little baby girl crying in the background.
Oh, Journey.
Little
I'm
Journey.
Not much on tag though. I'm not much on tag. I prefer Tang, which is the transcendental argument for not God. Yeah.
Oh my God, Robin, you are so deep into this stuff. I can't even.
Tag's an interesting one. It's the one that all the serious Calvinists go into, and you can see them on debate communities and YouTube and stuff. And like some of you, like really good, or I don't want to say good, really established Calvinists and many people use Tag. And then you're like, how did you come to the realization that God was the foundation of logic?
Right.
Yeah. Like, yeah.
And why do you value that?
It's just they're either going to have to say, they're either going to have to go into a circle and say, well, he is the foundation of logic, and then the argument's over, or they say, oh, my own understanding.
Yes.
That is not foundationalized in God's understanding.
Your own, and your own methods of and your own freaking methods of understanding that are born of that sentimental value sorting. Oh my God.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to deliver.
So Tag is usually easily countered, but I mean, people are just going to go be like, well, you had to have the foundation of normativity from God or logic from God to even make the claim that God was the foundation of those things. But then that just becomes circular as hell. But I mean, many things are circular and still true, but it's viciously circular. In philosophy, they have virtuous circularity, which is fine. There's plenty of things. The correspondence theory of truth is virtuously circular. However, there are viciously circular things that literally do nothing. If you were to just X them out, it's the same thing as them being there and circling. So.
Yes. Yes. Sort of like a tornado.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a lot of education is virtuously circular. You educate me, I educate you. Educate me, I educate you. Right.
Yeah.
So there's lots of virtuous circularity in the world.
Circular. Like a tornado is viciously circular. That's why I said that.
I mean, quite literally, Robin. Quite literally.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that.
I thought you might, if you got it.
Well, thank you. Thank you, my dear.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you thank you a lot.
I have a good friend that I don't know if y'all remember the night we had Kyla on. He came on and spoke to her or whatever for a minute and left. But anyway, he is one of those that asserts that object all of that, everything, you know, he has objective from God and stuff. And me and him just squabble all the time. That's why, like, I like to throw that tang at him every now and then, just to aggravate him.
Yeah, well, the thing about the presuppositionalists, all you have to say is, yeah, we all have presuppositions.
Yeah.
The problem is, though, I see, is that a lot of secular people don't even know what their presuppositions are, and they argue this shit, or they don't want to admit they have presuppositions. But
I think the laws of logic are like presuppositions, actually, but we all use them. Like to me, I mean, like that. I look at them as presuppositions, but I think that everybody on both sides starts with them as it takes them as a precept, and like I don't. You know what I mean? So I don't like we're on even ground there. To me, it's like I'm precepting that they're true, and you are too. You know, it doesn't matter if they were grounded by God or grounded by Dino the dinosaur.
The presupposition is that we all trust the states of our nervous system. If they had a transcendental experience with God, they're trusting that state. If I'm sitting here and I see evidence over and over of something being the case descriptively in the state of the affairs, I am using my nervous system.
You are also stating
is how our bodies automatically feel.
So. You are also stating that you value your nervous system.
Correct. Like you're sitting there being like, okay, well, I feel God. All right. Well, then that presupposition is that I'm trusting my body to tell me correct things about feeling God.
Yeah. And my body is trustworthy.
That's where it all bottoms out at. That's why affect and value and normativity are at the bottom of everything.
My sense making is trustworthy. How about that? How about that as a presupposition? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the only way they have
their nervous system. So sorry,
the only place they have to go if they don't want to go with all that is just straight into solipsism. You know what I mean? Like, so is that really where you want to go? Plant your flag at?
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That's
you're
what
right.
Like, so what are you arguing for solipsism?
That is one of the problems they fall into sometimes. Yep, that's for sure.
And no, I can't. You know what I mean? I don't have the you know, I can't prove that solipsism, you know,
nobody has an absolute defeater for hard solipsism, but nobody in the world takes it seriously.
That's because, that's because fallibilism won out in academic philosophers, in that, like, if you accept fallibilism, solipsism is just nothing. Solipsism points to as a problem.
It wouldn't even matter if it all was created by me entirely.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It's still real within my phenomenology, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And if solipsism is true, why are you sitting here arguing with me about anything in the first place? You know what I mean? Like that. Look, you're the idiot.
Entertainment, Robin.
You're arguing with imaginary people in your head, in your vat. So.
Yep, I tell you. Some people's chilling.
Yep. Hey, you talking about swapping? We did actually have a case of babies, like this week. I think it was in maybe Arizona or something like that, where there were two men that are they're like in their 40s.
Yeah.
Okay, and he went and got, and these two men were swapped at birth in their 40s, 40-some years ago. They got swapped at birth. Two grown men that grew up in the wrong family the whole time and everything, and something about their DNA things or whatever, and it come out. So yes, it's always possible that you got swapped at birth. I wanted to bring that up.
Well, and even if we but that's delineating from the lesson here, because even if we cannot come up with a single example or imagine how it could even be possible, it doesn't fucking matter to the logical issue I'm pointing out. Because just because we can't imagine it, or we can't even imagine a being that could imagine it, or can't even imagine how we would start to imagine it, it doesn't mean it's not possible.
Did you find it, Thomas?
What? I'm sorry?
Oh, I thought you were looking for it.
No, I'm working on my stuff. I'm so sorry, hon.
Okay. It just kind of reminded me, though, of that case, because, I mean, just because y'all brought that up, and, like, this week, it was just a thing where, like, 40, people went 40-some years with the wrong, it swapped at birth. So it does happen. Don't even have to be a possible modal argument for that.
Well, that's the
How
thing.
long was that
Yeah, go ahead, Trey.
conversation?
What's it?
How long was that conversation?
I have no idea.
You got to start timing them, Travis.
30?
I need them to do more than
Timed.
Get to it.
By the way, if anyone's interested in partaking in my philosophical coaching practice, I now have 18 people signed up. Keeps growing every day. We do 1 hour sessions, and we work on basically what's of most philosophical importance to you. Often that relates to learning how to articulate meaning and purpose in your life, and forming transcending meanings and purposes for your life, helping out with particular goals and issues, basically just engaging in partnered conceptual organization. That's what we do in the sessions, and they're a lot of fun. The first one's free. All of them after that are $30 per session. So we've been having some really interesting conversations, and I'm creating original documents now that are universalized. Like they're not made just specifically for the client, but you can find those. I dropped them in the philosophical coaching tab. I had a client on today, and we were talking about how to think optimistically, because this particular person has trouble with that. We talked today about epistemology a lot, about truth,
Most
meaning.
of the world has a problem with that.
Yeah. So we had a lot of different conversations today, which were a lot of fun. Hey, Snowdrop, welcome back. Today we're just talking about God again. That dang God. What up, his?
Hizzle dizzle.
According to Don in the chat, says Pangburn ended his faith. LOL. I hope I didn't end that person's faith. Unless it was, in fact, best for their well-being to do so. But I don't think I ended their faith.
I wanted more back and forth. I wanted to see what Eastern Orthodox is.
I know. I wanted to. I would have loved to do more, and I just think they got to actually address my shit. Well, let's say hello to a Heron. A Heron, how's it going? Maybe it's just Heron. Do they have credentials to speak?
I remember. I think he is atheist. I remember.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
It's Aharon. That's my Hebrew name.
Aharon. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a suburban kid, but when you're a child, you're named with a Hebrew name, even though you're growing up in the suburbs of Minneapolis.
Oh, cool. Well, what's your deal? What are your epistemic standards? What are your ethical standards? Do you believe in the existence of God?
I'm a complete heathen.
Oh my God! You're going to HE double hockey sticks. Enjoy burning for all time down there.
Well, I'm in, I guess, HE double hockey sticks right now. If you consider Minnesota the state of hockey,
I do, because I'm a Mighty Ducks man. So
okay. We all grew up with hockey sticks in our hands, but I'm a suburban kid who grew up in a synagogue, grew up in the conservative Jewish community, but never ever believed in God. But I went through a traditional Jewish education in the U.S. and have basically studied all the scriptures. Not so much Islam, but certainly Christianity and certainly the Torah and the Tanakh, and none of it's true.
Yeah, what do you think, Trey?
Let's hear more. None of it's true.
No, none of it.
Let's hear more. Like What do you mean?
What's that?
What do you mean none of it's true?
The Hebrew Bible is a bunch of folk tales by Judean men who wanted to own their women and, make up a glorious story. Kind of like Tolkien wanted to write a mythology for the Lonely Isle for England. He didn't like that they didn't really have a mythological origin story. Well, the Torah is just a mythological origin story for the Judeans, and Christianity is just a bunch of gaslighting lies by uh, Greek speakers who hated the Judeans and their God and the temple authority. And uh, I'm a complete mythicist. I don't believe Christ existed, but I don't believe most of the characters of the Old Testament of the Hebrew scriptures really existed either.
Interesting. So, like, not even Christ, he wasn't a real person.
No, definitely not.
Interesting. And none of the characters in the Bible are real.
Maybe David, but I go back and forth on that. I think that it's certainly possible that there could have been a House of David without there being a quote unquote David character. And I think that, so my personal feeling is that what we know as the Torah was written, and I guess it reaches its final form much later than people give and especially scholars are willing to grant. I don't think it's finished until Maccabean times, 140s, and they were just retrojecting stories into the past because I think they thought they were cool, to be honest with you.
Do you, so the writers wrote it because they thought they were being cool.
Yeah, well, so imagine, like, if you look at how coders and computer people looked at themselves as things were starting to burgeon in the online and computer world. It's a frontier. Well, I think the people that were writing the scriptures at that time, they were on the frontier. They were literate. It was technology to them, and they were influenced by all the communities and cultures around them, and they were writing these stories down for a purpose, but they weren't true. They were taking stories that happened to them and retrojecting them into the past with characters. It's literature. It's not an oral tradition. It's literature. It was written down to be read aloud. That's my opinion.
Can I?
How do you
Can I?
know it's true though? What you're saying
Okay.
is true.
No, it's not true.
No, how do you know what you're saying is true, or do you not think it's
Well,
true what you're saying?
to the extent that we can know anything, I'm not going to get into those things. I'm a modern person who's looking at these ancient writings and applying what I can apply of my own, uh, I guess, cognitive sensibilities to a group of people that lived a long time ago, and I can only do it through my own lens. So, can I really know anything? No, but I've read everything and listened to everything that I can possibly listen to, every argument, everybody's theory. Um, I've been studying this since I was a little kid. We had, Torah class when we were, you know, 10 years old. I've been reading the Torah since I was 10. I learned to read it in Hebrew, but it's not. I'm not saying that they didn't mean to take for it to be taken literally, but I don't think it's written anywhere near where the stories claim they were. And people tend to think that these stories were passed down for generations. I think they were invented much later, about maybe some characters that were mythological ancestors of theirs, but they're stories, clearly stories.
I think a little while ago you like said something about scholars that scholars. What did you say about scholars?
Well, so scholars tend to have an orthodoxy, and so they tend to date, like for example, the Torah to an earlier time than I think it really gets written. They believe that there's portions of the Torah that come from, let's say, 1,000 BC down into 500 BC, and then are handed off, after the exile and blah blah blah. I don't think any of it was written until the exile, and I think it begins with probably Jeremiah and Baruch, his scribe, and Ezekiel. And I think the scholars, like, they look at the prophetic books and they go, well, maybe there was someone named Ezekiel, maybe there was someone named Jeremiah, maybe some of these stories have some core truth to them, but they never make the step of, well, hey, these guys wrote their own books, maybe they also wrote the Torah itself about their lives, but they retrojected it into the past. The events of their lives became the stories of the Torah through characters that they were writing about. Maybe they invented them, maybe they didn't, but that's how I see it. It's a snowball rolling downhill from there, accreting text until the Maccabean times in the 140s, when the archaeology starts showing that people are observing the laws of the Torah. There's no evidence of anybody observing any Torah law before 140 BC.
So do you know what the like? I agree with a lot of what you're saying. Like I do. I probably have some more clarification though. I think that you know there was the two kingdoms. There was the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, and
Always.
yes,
There was probably never a united kingdom.
yeah. But I think that the at one time, like and I have trouble remembering which one, but one of them, maybe the Northern Kingdom, was actually still worshiping like El too, and they still like they had different practice, some kind of ritual practices and stuff. So that there was like a division between like the practices that were going on in the Northern and Southern Kingdom, and so um, I think generally it's accepted that a lot of the Torah was written, like you said, during exile as a way to unite the two kingdoms back under a shared faith to where there wouldn't be so much discrepancy between the practices and the beliefs within the two kingdoms. Have you ever heard that?
Yeah, and I will admit that I struggle with a lot of that stuff because I have this. So just this is personal stuff that no one cares about, but I'm cynical to a fault, and I tend to disbelieve things much quicker than I will believe something.
Uh-huh.
So sorry, I'm smoking a doobie. There's
Makes sense.
so there's people who, so, like, how much of it is historical? Like, I believe there was a King Hezekiah, and Hezekiah was the king of Judah. He was the king of Jerusalem and the small area around it. What happens before that is really murky.
See,
And
I'll show you. I'll show you a book I have. This is the academic book. Um,
So you're saying that some
so
of
this
it
is an
is true.
academic book. This has been peer reviewed and everything. And this is on the Exodus, and like it pretty much debunks the Exodus. But it's a peer reviewed book. But I don't know. Have you ever heard of the channel Myth Vision? Like Derek Lambert. Derek Lambert does a lot of
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
on
yeah.
that.
I'm completely versed and have watched every single content creator, and I watch Justin all the time. I watch John Cohn all the time. I watch everything I can see from Derek and Jacob and um,
Okay. Yeah.
God Barnea and Jacob Wright and Jonathan Adler. Bart Ehrman. I follow all of the scholarship, mainly watching it online, but reading some of it. I'm pretty well versed in everybody's argument. Um, and so, but I have so here's a here's a admission. Okay, so a lot of these ideas are not necessarily mine. I have a friend. He's an Israeli guy. His name is Gil Kidron, and he has a podcast that I would recommend to everybody just because I like it and I like him. It's called A Podcast of Biblical Proportions, and it started out as two Israeli guys reading the Torah and going through the stories and talking about it in English, but from the perspective of what is it saying in Hebrew if you read it in Hebrew and you understand Hebrew. And it's approached from an atheist perspective. They're not making any leap of faith, but they're talking about the stories and the tropes and the literature and um, eventually it just became Gil's project. It's at least 3, if not 4 years along now, with him putting out episodes every 2 weeks to 3 weeks. There's 109 episodes, and he just finished the Torah. And he has what he calls tribal meetings. You know, a lot of the people who follow the podcast are a bunch of Jewish people, mainly Jewish atheists, people who are interested in the Hebrew scripture and scripture widely. And so we get together on Zoom, maybe 5, 10 people every month and a half, every 2 months, and talk about the podcast and what he's doing and how he's doing it and what we think about it. And it's been a lot of fun, and I've learned a lot. And I tend to agree in a lot of ways with the way he's approaching it and looking at it. But I would recommend it for anybody who's looking at sort of an honest layman's look at how did the main thrust of it is how did it get written? Who wrote it? Why did they write it? Where did the stories come from?
That's why I said I think that's like one of the generally accepted among scholars theories is it was written to unite the two kingdoms. Like at the time of the Babylonian exile, and they were like people were getting moved around and stuff, and they were wanting to, and that's what I think that it makes sense. Like I've listened to that now, like you said, mentioned Bart Ehrman. Bart Ehrman is a New Testament scholar, so I would say that like none of it, like I mean, like somebody like that old like Kip Davis, Dr. Kip Davis, or somebody like that. It would be Old Testament.
So
Um,
it's interesting, and so here's another. And anybody who wants to tell me to shut up is free to tell me to shut up.
I have a question, Aharon, when you're ready.
Okay, well, one real quick thing. So I believe in the human condition, and that one of the most elemental things in the entire human condition is that people lie. People lie a lot. People lie to themselves. Everybody knows a lie. Everybody knows what it is to lie. And human beings lie in every culture and always have. And religion at its core is a grift for money, a lying grift for money. Now, this is incredibly cynical. I get that people can believe something legitimately, but ultimately, a lot of times it boils down to things being about money. And so, in my own cynical way, I look at like kind of like this whole ecosphere, I would call it, of online conversation about God and atheism and philosophy. And there's a lot of really talented people, a lot of nice people, a lot of good people, a lot of people doing a lot of stuff online. But in a way, it's all the other side of the coin of the grift. and everybody's making money doing it, trying to make money doing it, and a lot of them won't really engage with you unless you're super chatting them or supporting them financially. And so I view it all really cynically, and that may not be the right way to do it. And so I'm making a mea culpa in that sense. But like a guy like Bart Ehrman, I actually think a lot of the guy is a human being, but his thing is partly a grift. Same thing with Kip Davis. These people they're very studied people, but they're also making money doing this, and so they have
I don't think that's a grift. I mean, I think that's what his life, like his choice of what he makes his living doing. I don't think Bart is a grifter. I think that he's providing an actual service that is very much requested by people. Like, I mean, he like provides a biblical like interpretation and courses on all of that and stuff for atheists and theists alike, and I mean, like that. I mean, he actually, he thinks the Bible is probably one of the best books that has ever been written. I mean, he loves the Bible, even though he doesn't believe in God anymore. He still thinks the Bible is absolutely one of the most valuable books we have. So I don't think these people are grifters. And I know Dr. Kip Davis. I don't think Dr. Kip is a grifter at all. I mean, I just don't think that they're lying. They've put.
You don't have to lie to be engaged. You don't have to lie to be engaged in it.
They put years and years and years of devotion into, because like both of them came to their choice of education background as believers. So they came into this like wanting to know more about the book of God, from God, that God wrote. And so that was a genuine, thing. And they both of them kind of lost their faith with that, but they still, that's what they do. But I don't know. I don't see. I know Kip, so I know, and I feel like I'm pretty familiar with Bart. I have never met him personally, but I've been like a member of his channel for years, and I feel like that they're not grifters. I think that this is a like they're providing a service that is very much requested, and they do it relatively for very little pay. I mean, like Bart, you can sign up and get one of his, his courses relatively cheap for what it would cost you to take from what you would expect to pay.
Dang, Robin, I didn't think that you're a capitalist. I'm kidding.
Of course, I'm a capitalist. What do you mean?
I'm
What do you think I am?
kidding.
So your name is Robin Webster?
Yes.
And where are you?
I'm in Kentucky.
My name is Ron Katz. I'm in Minneapolis. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Like I say, I'm an incredibly cynical person, and life is a grift in my view, and so I don't necessarily want to consider it entirely pejorative to say that I think that the whole thing is a grift by all these people, like everybody. Like, it's all different sides of a grifting coin. Christianity and Judaism, and you got to pay your 10%. And I'm a jeweler. I'm a jeweler, and you got to pay me to do the jewelry for you. So I get it that we're all making a living. But I think
that like there's a whole bunch of people who are in it that are not grifting. But do you know Nivik?
Who?
Nivik.
He's a guy here, Nivik.
One of our members. Yeah.
No, I don't.
I was laughing. Nivik is very suspicious of people.
Okay, so
that's what I was laughing about.
Like comments.
Okay, so like one of the things that I've been watching, so I come at life from the world made me Jewish, right? I'm an atheist, but I'm Jewish by any objective sense of the definition.
The world made you Jewish? What about your parents, maybe?
What's that?
How did the world make you Jewish?
Because everybody in my family that anybody knows about is descended from another Jewish person. And everybody was practicing Judaism the way that Judaism got practiced, however long it happened, to the point where when I was born, I was circumcised, I was bar mitzvahed, I went to every Jewish wedding, every synagogue event. I'm Jewish because the world made me Jewish. I didn't have a choice in it.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, like, yeah, the world, but
But
your parents.
but in Sunday school at 5, when they told me about the ark, I went, "That's not possible. Are you kidding me? Come on."
So did they like, because I didn't like I didn't think that most Jewish parents taught the ark. I thought that was pretty much just a evangelical. Like here in Kentucky, that's where the ark is. The Ark Encounter is right here in my home state.
Well,
Yes, we have
so
right here.
I grew up in a conservative Jewish home with a mother who was from a conservative Jewish background, and then a father who was from a borderline Orthodox, more what we would say frumish, more religious background. And they all told us all the stories word for word with reverence, but with a wink of an eye.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Like when
I think Trey had a question for you though. I'm sitting there hogging the conversation, and all it. I think
All
Trey
right.
was.
Thanks,
Go ahead.
Robin. I have a few questions. So you said nothing in the Bible is true.
Well, when I say nothing, I mean the
Oh, so
grand.
something is true.
I mean the grand scheme of it.
Okay. So you clarified that. And then I want to recommend something uh, about your cynicism. You should read Travis's philosophical coaching, How to Think More Optimistically. It's free, so it can't be a grift because it's free. You just have to go into the Travis philosophical coaching and click on it, and then
Okay,
maybe
so this is no offense to anybody, but I'm the last person that is receptive to any of that kind of, and I'm not a negative person. I'm a cynical person. I just tend to believe that everybody's faking it till they make it. I watch it in my life. I watch it in everything in the world. I'm not blaming or saying it's necessarily the worst thing. I'm saying it is. And like I watch a lot of this stuff for, and to be honest, it's sport. It's fun. I enjoy the interaction and the combativeness and the. I mean, I'm argumentative at best, and so part of it's the joust of, hey, no, and there's such two distinct sides of it. Um, but I have the history side of it that fascinates me as to how did it actually really come about. Like, so what fascinates me is so I grew up in a synagogue where on Saturday morning they pulled the Torah out of the ark and took the cover off of it and lifted it up and held it up to the community. I want to know when the first Jewish guy with the first original version, finished version of it, did that. What day? What's the actual date? And how much later is it than people really um, think? And this will get back to the broader scholarship. So it's a huge conversation, and all these people have their ideas about it. But I've been hunting, and nobody really has real evidence.
yeah. So you said you came in, you said none of it's true. Now you're saying some of it's true. I mean, we know. Like, do you believe that Judea was held by Rome?
Well, so like when I say none of it's true, like so.
So that part's true. Judea was held by Rome.
Wait. So when I say none of it's true, so like for Jesus to have died for everybody's sins, the Old Testament has to be literally true, correct?
I don't think we even need the Bible to have for Jesus to die for our sins.
How uh, how can the prophecies of the Messiah not be true and have Jesus be the Messiah and die for everybody's sins?
Well, I just said that we don't need the Bible for Jesus to have died for our sins.
But Trey, remember he's Jewish. He's not. He was
No,
not
no, no,
grown up with the
no, no,
New
no. You
Testament.
you do need the Bible to have Jesus to have died for your sins
Why?
because there is no Jesus without the Bible.
Uh, what?
See, to him, the Bible is not the New Testament. He's Jewish.
No, no, no. I'm talking the whole script. When I say if I say the Bible, I'm talking
Okay.
Genesis to Revelation. The
Okay.
Okay.
next generation, baby.
Look, I have a biography of George Washington in my library. If that book didn't exist, that
Well-
doesn't mean George Washington was not a real person.
No. But okay, so that's fair. But we have evidence that George Washington existed. Now we don't have anything of a story of Jesus except what's in the Gospels and the epistles and the what is the New Testament to be general. There's no external evidence of any of that story.
There was a Roman guy, Robin. You know his name. You said it last time, I think. Tacitus. There was a couple of
I don't know.
books that came a little bit later.
I know all this material, and there is no external evidence. And Tacitus is over 100 years after Jesus Christ.
Well, there's plenty of books that are written hundreds of years after George Washington. Like that doesn't prove that Jesus wasn't real.
No. There are letters written by George Washington to a person in a free state who he was corresponding with because he crossed state lines to retrieve an escaped slave, a woman. And it's all documented in letters back and forth between George Washington and this guy. That's not a fair comparison. There's no letters of Jesus. There's nobody who lived when Jesus was living according to the story that wrote anything down. And no one can say with any certainty that anything was reported by any eyewitness from the time the story says the guy lived. It's all over 100 years afterwards. So
for it to be true, we need to have
the New
things written
Testament.
down.
You don't without the New Testament, you don't have Jesus. But without the Torah, you don't have Moses. So
for something to be true, it has to be written down in the time of the person. Got it.
No, you have to have reason to believe it could be true. Like, so if someone says, well, hey, no, at this time, this person assaulted this person, we can kind of be reasonable and say, well, yeah, that can be true. People assault people all the time. But, there's from the beginning of the Torah all the way till the end of Revelations, there's how many could we count things that just defy actual, it can't be considered history, and historians won't, they'll reject those things, and that I'm not trying to be impolite, but that
I mean, I think a lot of historians
about the same thing.
I think a lot of historians generally agree that Jesus was real and that he was crucified. Robin and I talked about this last time, but so I was going to say something else. You here we are talking like 2,000 years later about a guy that never moved more than like 200 miles from where he was born, died with just the clothes he had on his back, and maybe 20% of the world follows his teachings, but here you are saying he's not even a real person.
So I went to a Bible study once that I was invited to by some Christian clients of mine. They're very nice people. They wanted to convert me. And they also invited some other Jewish people, and everybody was talking about why they believed. And the Jewish people said, well, the Jewish people have been around for 2,800 years, and so how could that not be true? Well, what is 2,800 years or 2,000 years or 200 years for the Mormons or 60 years for the Nation of Islam? What does that mean? What does that matter?
Well, I mean, you're just saying that he wasn't even a real person, but uh,
So
he
if
here we are talking about him, and he had
okay,
nothing to his
okay,
name.
so what about the vast majority of people in the history of the earth have believed in some type of higher power, correct?
Probably, yeah.
And most of them were believing in something completely imaginary.
Probably not. I think a lot of them believed in the sun, and we can see the sun. A lot of them
Okay, so
believed
for
in
all the sun worshippers,
God of lightning. So there's been a lot of quote unquote gods that people believed in that they
right,
can
but
actually see.
a lot of imaginary gods we can, like, even if I grant all these things, say, hey, take them all.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it outright, just flat out imaginary gods from the beginning of time, and more people than not have believed in those imaginary gods. Doesn't make them true. Doesn't make any of them true. And if yours is true, then none of those were true.
Yeah.
So it's just all made up grift, money.
Well, I won't argue that it's true, but I'll say that uh, I don't think that you're right, and I don't think that it's true that it's all for money. I mean, I've been a Christian for a very long time, I guess, and to be honest, I've never paid any church a single dime.
Well,
So
that puts you in the minority. Welcome to being Jewish. That's puts you in the minority.
I'm 2% Jewish, 2%.
I think everybody is. Uh, but
Oh,
but
like you people ain't like just sucking up off of us right now. I'm
hey,
just
but
kidding.
it,
I probably should keep my anti-Semitism jokes to what myself, but no.
It's okay.
It'll take you like 2 years and a bunch of contentious conversations with rabbis to convert to Judaism, and then they'll want you to pay dues to the synagogue. That they'll want to get you up to as close to 10% as they can, and God bless them, right?
I would convert if Don convinced me, like asked me to. I think if Don was to ask me to convert.
So I have a question for the people in the room that think about this kind of stuff. So there's really no evidence that there was a big sacrificial barbecue in the sky in the first temple with an Ark of the Covenant and all that jazz. There's really no proof of it. Okay. Do people think that really happened, or that these people were glorifying a past that they were hundreds of years away from, and were writing these stories that started in exile when they were, subjugated people, and they had revenge fantasies on their mind?
Some people believe Earth is 6,000 years old, so I wouldn't be surprised if they believe there was exactly what you described.
I mean, like, you don't think that people believe these stories? And like, I would say that I know that like a great number of Jewish people are atheists now or non-believers, following World War II, and I see that as a very justified position, probably. But and they're involved a lot in the sciences too. Like there's a lot of scientists, in some of those major fields that are Jewish, and so but like we have a lot of like young Earth creationists here. Yeah, they believe it. They definitely believe it. They believe every bit of it. They believe everything. They believe Adam and Eve. They believe the boat.
So
They believe all of that. They think that every bit of it is absolute 100% truth.
Once again, this is where my cynicism comes in. Like, to me, when there's no cost of belief, it's easy to say you believe in something. But like, if someone puts a gun in your face that
I don't care
you
that
will,
these people
wait,
believe
wait,
it. My
wait, wait.
parents,
You will move your face, and you really truly believe that gun will kill you if they pull that trigger. That's different than saying, "Oh, I believe in this and I believe in that." It's like
I,
saying, "Hey, believe that if you step off that rooftop, you're not going to plunge 30 feet." It's belief is a word that gets thrown around. I don't think a lot of people really believe what they say.
I do, and I think that first of all, I don't think that you have any like way to read somebody else's mind. So like when they express to you what their beliefs are, I think that you just pretty much have to accept that unless they give you some really good evidence to show that's not, because I mean, I just, I don't think most people are dishonestly representing their position on this.
Hey, so nice
I'm not a
lady.
cynical person like that. And so I think most people honestly, and I do think that people believe this. I grew up in a family that very much believes this.
Hey, nice lady. So like if you're sitting there face to face with someone and you guys are having a conversation, you're telling me you can't read their mind many of the times?
Never, never,
Come on.
never.
You can't tell me that when they say something stupid or they bullshit you and they look away real quick, they give a tell that
I'm not reading their mind. I
you
mean,
can't read what they're thinking.
I'm
I
not
just
reading
Brother,
their mind.
I
do
think
you
you're
not think that
underestimating yourself.
I'm
do
not
you
reading their
not think
mind.
that do
I'm
you
sorry.
not think that the people out there that you're asking those questions, gun to their head, they don't believe that they're going to be united with their God,
No.
and for them it's going to be worth it?
No, they're scared shitless that they're wrong.
They might be scared, sure.
No,
But does that
I'm
mean
not,
they don't believe
I'm not,
it?
I'm not saying everybody. I'm not saying everybody. I think there are people that legitimately.
I think you're vastly underestimating okay, like the 9/11 terrorists that flew into the Twin Towers. Do you think that they were lying about their beliefs?
No, but I think that
Okay, well then, I mean,
no, no,
they are.
I'm not saying that there aren't a lot of people that believe there are. That's
Okay, well,
true.
that's an example of though like that's what I'm saying. Like, it is very possible for people to believe like that. You know what I
Oh,
mean? It does. It's not a small. I mean, like these are major religions all around the world, and I think it's not a small group of people who have that much belief.
yeah, I agree. But a lot of the time that belief resides in a place where there's no charge for it. You know what I mean?
I may have my own opinions on whether they're justified to keep holding those beliefs,
I'm
but
not
that
even.
doesn't mean
I'm not even
that
talking.
yeah,
I'm
that
not
don't
even
mean
talking about it like that. I'm talking about it like so. For example, just like the normal average person who's lives through a religious life, their whole life. Like my dad, he grew up in a synagogue. He lived his whole life, and then he passed away, and he was buried in a Jewish service in a Jewish cemetery, and that
Bro, they're charged 10%. What are you talking about, bro?
he
I
did
mean,
pay his 10% the whole time, and thankfully he paid for his own plot. He offered to get me a plot, and I said yeah, but then I never took him up on it. So now I got to get my own. But he had a certain set of beliefs about what was going on with God, but there was no cost for those beliefs. Not like where you had to put your belief was on the line for something where it's really truly about what do you believe or what don't you believe. I mean,
yeah,
because
but yeah, like your dad was not like that. I mean, that's not anything like my family, like the family I grew up in, like at all. And like I said, I think a lot of Jewish people questioned their belief following World War II, and so it caused a lot of people lose faith after that. But like where I live, there is no shortage of people who believe this shit and believe it enough that I mean, they would bet their life on it in a heartbeat. I mean, and they really believe it. They're not grifting. They're not making it up. They're not
oh,
just
they're getting grifted.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that probably most of them get something out of this. That I think that religion is a relationship, sort of, unless you're just going to like a culty church
Well,
where you go,
so,
like
so
Scientology. If you are a Scientology, you are getting really, really grifted.
I will say this: it is the excuse for the community.
Like Trey said he don't go to church and pay tithing, so it's not like he's not getting grifted by it.
Church sometimes, but I should be going more. But I literally have never paid a dime that I know of.
I think
So-
it's just like I think you're making things very black and white, and I think it's probably not like I think that there's somewhere in between what you're seeing and what is actually going on is what is the truth, sort of.
So the church, the church or the synagogue or the mosque is the excuse for the community to be the community, and I don't necessarily see anything bad about that because I think by and large that the community's good for everybody. It just the community costs 10%. I'm sorry, I mean that's just kind of how but like I I think that there's a natural thing to have a community and a way to identify yourself and a way to identify yourself in close and in a larger way.
Where
And so the religion and the faiths, quote unquote, to be fair to everybody, they have their place, and I understand why they occupy that place. It's just that it's based on something that's just not true.
where's the atheist community that brings in 10% from everybody?
Yeah, I have not like I don't like so. One of the things I've found is that the atheist community is not any different than the religious community. Bunch of bad apples in the atheist community, just like there is in the religious community. I don't. This is my own thing, but the online mods think they're greater than gods.
I am a goddess. Yes, I am a mod on most channels. You're muted.
Travis, you're muted.
That also rhymes too. Online mods think they're greater than gods, but we have to say online atheist mods think they're greater than gods. I think that's fantastic.
I'm like a mod on so many channels, and like yes.
But what's your name so I can keep my mouth shut around you?
The same, Robin Webster. That's
Okay.
my name. I don't have I was one of them people who was not smart enough to like go into like incognito mode when I got on YouTube.
No, that just means you're honest. You're peak honesty.
Well, it's just like I'm just sitting here, you know what I mean? Like, but everybody's like, "Oh, aren't you worried about people coming to your house?" I'm like, "No," because like
that's like that. That reminds me that when we do the Draw Muhammad every year celebration, when I draw Muhammad live on the air, people are like, "You're going to spend the rest of your life in hiding, Travis." No, I'm not, and never had to, and I'm not worried. Thank you.
Well, I draw stick people really bad, so like my Muhammad would not even.
Well, a stick person with a beard, screaming Allah Akbar.
They'd be like, "That's such a bad drawing. We're not even getting mad about that one."
No. It's better than this. The Muslims end up killing you, not because they're offended by Muslim, but just because nobody should be able to draw anything that bad. That's why you get killed.
Yeah.
What is the because Mexicans are largely Catholic, I believe, right? So
lots of Catholics here. Yeah.
What is the opinion down there on Islam?
Oof, I don't know, man. I would have to look at the opinion polls and stuff, whatever's available online. Yeah, no, I couldn't tell you. I know in our little town that we live in, it's very quite traditionally Catholic. Yeah.
Here comes a man that'll tell us all about how the Abrahamic faiths are nonsense. Look at the puppies.
I We've been hearing that though for the last 30 minutes from Aharon.
You'll hear it from Dane too.
Mr. Is it Aharon? Aharon?
Aharon.
Aharon. I really enjoy listening to you. It's almost like you've had radio experience in your life.
It's just Jewish shtick.
It's just a Jewish stick. Yeah, I think the West has stolen all of that and made it popular on the radio.
Yeah,
It's a Jewish grift shtick.
Yeah. Well, the priesthood was a grift. They had, all of Judea paying them money and giving them land. And
how much of a grift was the circumcision?
So it's funny because I'm pro circumcision. So
interesting.
Well, so it's an identity marker, and the
yeah.
the possibly oldest joke in the world is, hey, you're circumcised. Did that hurt when that happened? Yeah, it hurt so much I didn't walk till I was 1 year old.
Well, you said the whole world made you Jewish, and now you're supporting circumcision because it's an identity marker.
Yeah,
I don't think you can blame the whole world. The world. I wasn't there when they sniffed you.
Well, so I think people, including myself, will talk out of both sides of their mouth and hold hypocritical positions that because of one thing triggering one thing in them and another thing triggering something else in them. But I think that there's a lot of intolerance in the tolerant community, and in the community that I am part of, whether I believe in the religion of it, everybody's circumcised. Not almost everybody, everybody. Yeah. And nobody that is remembered it. And nobody that has any that I know of has ever had a negative thing with it of any kind. So
that's fine. I mean, if I had a son, I probably would not have him circumcised, and I would like to see people get away from being
that's
something that we just automatically do. But I think that it's all right. But I think that it is without consent of the person.
Yeah, but you're born without consent.
Yeah, but I believe in.
Hey, last time I checked, my birth was a passive act.
I understand.
At the same time, you are too young to know, but that does affect things like the sensitivity.
Yeah,
to take that away from somebody. Yeah,
I'm not saying everybody should do it, but I'm saying that I'm not sure how it is that people are going to be tolerant of other people, but tell them they can't do it.
I didn't say that. I didn't say. I said
there's a huge swell of that zeitgeist.
Oh yeah, there's people
at this particular moment in this space and these spaces. Saying that you're pro circumcision is not the popular position.
I would agree with that. You're probably right about that. Yes.
But if everybody's being honest, I'm entitled to that position as much as I acknowledge why people have the position that you shouldn't circumcise the people. I understand the argument they're making, and they're right to that argument.
Well, they should convince you with their argument and not with their bullying.
Right.
That's what I think. If they're giving you a hard time, they just obviously have not really made their argument good enough yet.
Well, so that's a like so this right here where we are is not a chat on the side of Justin's show or Ian's show or Blitz's show or Thinker's show or any of the shows. I wouldn't engage in this kind of conversation in that milieu because you'll get timed out or kicked out. It's like you can't be pro Israel right now without getting silenced.
Interesting. You can't be pro-Israel.
I gotta step off here, y'all. It was nice meeting you. Bye, Trey. Bye, everybody. Love all y'all.
Good night.
Love you, Robin.
Love you.
Take
love
care.
Hey, Aharon, you mind if I run a Frank Turek argument by you?
I know that name, but yeah, go ahead.
All right, so it goes like this. He's a Christian apologist. So he in his book, I Don't Have Enough Faith to Be an Atheist, he talks about Jewish atheists because it clearly states his reasoning, or their position states his reasoning. And he asks them, was the Holocaust objectively evil? Not just something that you dislike.
Okay, so are you asking that, or was he asking that question?
Yeah, this is like a standard question that he asks. Was the Holocaust objectively evil?
So I don't believe in evil as a transcendental per se. I don't believe in good as a transcendental per se. I believe actions are good and actions are bad, but I don't believe in objective morality, if that's what the question is.
So I guess you would say that, like, to some Nazis, the Holocaust. Well, some people. You probably don't even have to be a Nazi. I bet you've heard a lot of bad things about the Holocaust and stuff. So, what do you say to somebody that says the Holocaust was good or right?
Well, I say that, well, I'm going to get as far away from you as possible so you don't try to kill me. But secondly, I'm going to say, hey, for whatever reason at that time, those Europeans thought it was okay to kill Jewish people. And now you have a situation where the Jewish people have seen it and are going to be like, nah, it's better to be the killer than the killed. And we can talk about, is that moral? No, it's not moral. Killing somebody because of who they are, no, that's not moral. Killing someone over land, no, that's not moral. How is killing anybody ever moral? So I don't, it's not, none of it's moral.
I guess to defend yourself, maybe, or your people.
Like so if you're Jewish, you're raised on the Holocaust, you get to a point where it's yeah, I know, I heard about the Holocaust, I've heard everything there is to hear about the Holocaust enough already. A lot of Jewish people get to that point, and then I mean it. Well, where does it really belong in history? I don't know.
Interesting. So, I guess you would just think that it's disgusting, as I would. I get if somebody said, like, well, no, the Holocaust was a good thing.
Well, so that's just so now you're just either stupid, sociopathic, psychopathic, anti-Semitic, or all of the above if you're going to say something like the Holocaust was good. But like, so I'm an American living on Dakota Sioux land. Like all the land around here was Native American land, and we, the descendants of the white Europeans that came over here and took that land, are the beneficiaries of their actions, which were clearly immoral. Well, what am I supposed to do now? And so, I mean, the Holocaust, yeah, it was an immoral act by one group of people against another group of people. It was subjectively immoral, excuse me, because there's no such thing as objective morality.
Interesting. Wow.
I
Yeah.
agree with that 100%. I don't believe in objective morality. There's no such thing.
Yeah. I mean, I tend to believe that like it's something like the Holocaust is evil, no matter like who you are or what you believe in. I think even if somebody says it's a good thing, I would still say that it's evil, and I don't think that that's just my opinion or like even the majority's opinion. I just think that it's truly evil. But I mean, I'm happy to listen to why you think it's subjectively evil.
Well, like I walk around a lake in the morning, and fortunately for me, there's eagles that live on this lake. And every once in a while, I'm lucky enough to see one grab a fish, cruise up to the tree and eat it. So everything is cool, and everybody thinks that eagle is really majestic until you're that fish. And then that eagle is pretty evil. So, I mean, it's relative in the sense that, I mean, like, okay, so 2,800 years ago or whatever, the Assyrians invaded the Levant and picked up people groups and took them places and slaughtered them and stuck them on pikes and took their money. And that's continued to happen and happen and happen and happen, like till, and is going to continue to happen. It's happening right now. Like, where do you get where do you get that that's moral, or that that's somehow some kind of it, or immoral, that it's some kind of like transcendental thing that's evil? Because there's no such thing. It's just, it's just.
Well, I would say that I think that worldview that you're presenting has a problem then, because then you're basically saying, hey, anything goes. You want to take this land? Go ahead. We can do that.
Okay, so, and I apologize if I'm dominating the conversation at all. And if anybody wants to interject, please tell me to shut up. But there's no score. There's no blackboard in the sky with a score sheet on it. That's imaginary. The reality that we can demonstrate is that this world is as it is, and everything is subjective, and it's all impermanent.
So what's to happen?
I was just wondering, generally accepted, are you Christian?
Yes.
Yeah, it kind of sounded like you're a Christian. So do you equally decry every single genocide that is in the Bible, or do you defend genocides in the Bible?
I would say that genocide is bad. Yeah.
So
even if God says it, then it's bad, and he has his own justifications, I guess. But I would still say, if I was one of those people being genocided, I would think it's bad. Even if I was a Jewish soldier at the time, I don't know how they did it. I would think it's bad. But then again, I've heard like William Lane Craig say that it was God like executing justice, and back then justice was carried out that way. And but then again, I would also you can critique my point of view or what I believe in. That's fine, but I would also just return it to you and say, well, based on what Aharon is pretty much saying, is like, who cares if there was genocide? That's just the way it is.
That's that. I'm not saying that, but I do have a question. So, what exactly are William Lane Craig's credentials exactly? Like, is he like a PhD, this, that, or the other thing?
Yeah, he's a philosopher, PhD, and then he's a theologian.
So,
Yeah.
so let's say I had an opportunity to speak to him, and I said to him, Mr. Craig, that's really childish to sit and have a conversation about this under this circumstance, because those stories didn't happen.
We just went through this a little while ago.
I mean,
Took that back.
I get where it's placed in this world that these conversations exist in, and so I get why, if I'm someone in this space and some moronic Christian comes up and has the temerity to defend slavery and trot out all the Christian apologist tropes to try to defend it in order.
Has a Christian ever defended slavery, by the way? I'm just curious.
They do it every day, all day long online.
Oh, online. I think online is like a different kind of world. Sorry, but anyway, continue.
Well, and that's correct. I agree with that. But so the the reality of it is that these are stories, and they didn't happen where it's not really true. And I'm not even saying this because they're Israelites and I'm Jewish, okay? But they didn't go into the village of the Amalekites and take every Amalekite and slaughter all their men, women, and children. These are stories meant to scare the next group of people that they had to go and get out of their way. They didn't happen, and they're written with a nod, wink, wink.
Yeah. Well,
it's kind of childish to to have the conversation of, did God murder every single person on this planet by causing a flood? It's childish.
Yeah. So I was asking you about this the Holocaust, and you said that it was subjectively wrong.
Yes.
And that is just your opinion, right?
Well, I mean, that's all anybody has, right?
Every declaration of morality is just the person's opinion.
Period. God included.
Okay. Well, if you accept that, then I guess that's what you believe in. And then whenever let me finish. Whenever somebody has an opinion contrary to yours, then you have to accept that too, because that's their opinion.
Absolutely.
Could God declare something immoral even if it really truly is moral? Could he do that?
Declare something immoral if something is truly moral?
Yeah.
I think that God himself is goodness. So
if there's something that's moral, can he make it immoral? He's God.
Oh, you're talking about like he's all powerful. He can do whatever he wants.
Right.
I kind of disagree.
Because of that, when I ask that question, you have to start doing a gymnastic to transfer the thing that I'm digging at to a different place that I can't assail. But that's not even the point I'm making here is that God making something moral is just as subjective as you or me having an opinion of morality. It is either objective or it's not, but if it's subject to the will, or nature of God, it's subjective.
I don't think
I got some questions on.
Oh, one point, and then I'm done. I read this story one time about it's on the internet. If God can, and we were talking about it earlier, if God can make a stone He couldn't lift, and I kind of agreed with the article that said He can't because He's all powerful, so He can't make a stone He can't lift. Which then you'd say, well, then He's not all powerful. But anyway, I'll have to look at that story again to find its like reasoning. But I agree with that He can't do it.
Let's have it waypoint.
All right. So, do you think if there was no humans around, the same morality would exist?
There's no what?
If there's no humanity around, like if there's no human.
No.
Well, I'm asking. I'm asking him. I don't know his name. Federally accepted. Yeah.
I think that morality is dependent on humans. Yeah.
Okay. So, doesn't that kind of show that it has to be made up in our minds? Like, if it didn't exist already, then like, where is it coming from? It's not just like out there in the universe.
It could be if there's other places, but no, I do think if there's other like beings that have the capacity for morality, but I think it is dependent on humans as we know it, and in part because God like made us with that capacity. I guess I could say, like it is
So
in the Bible. It says it's like written on our hearts.
So where in like evolution do you think we got the capacity to have morality?
It probably came out by evolution. Yeah, probably at some point when we were uh, separating from chimpanzee or the common ancestor that we have with chimpanzees. We probably developed it after that. I don't know, but yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is that like it kind of sounds like you're like saying it's subjective then if it's not mind independent.
Well, I just don't think that the stuff like the Holocaust or even worse things are right, even if somebody says it is right. Like I believe I believe that there are things that are true even if you don't agree with them.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So, like, people would use the Holocaust as a object lesson on this kind of a conversation, and like the things that led to the Holocaust happened over and over and over and over again since the beginning of Christianity, and ended up where they ended up. That doesn't have anything to do with some kind of transcendental, ethereal right and wrong established in a holy realm. That you know what I mean? Like that there's human created reasons that ended up with a Holocaust. There's no like, you know, some guy did this one thing somewhere along the way and there was a curse that led to this wrong. It's just it's these are sociological things that happen. Tragic, but
I can agree that humans did that. Yeah, I can agree.
There's a couple points I wanted to button up real quick. Because first of all, I wanted to commend you, generally accepted, on keeping consistent. Because there's actually a lot of Christians out there that would say, you know, the Holocaust was bad, but these genocides within the Bible, those were good. So that's why I asked that question originally. And then you turned it around upon me and once again, I don't believe in evil. I say there is bad, but bad and evil are not the same thing. Evil is the attempt to juxtapose some kind of supernatural characteristics or qualia over the very common experience of bad, because we as state dependent beings, anytime that something challenges our the conditions that we need to live, we will invariably call that bad, but bad is not necessarily evil. So and when you turn it around on me, I don't agree with genocides either, but once again, as the point that Aaron was making, is a lion evil for eating a gazelle?
No, that's just like complete nature. So whenever somebody says like, I think Alex O'Connor has this a lot. Well, you know what? God is evil because, or God is not real because the animals suffer, and it's just so much animal suffering. Well, I mean, it's never even a bad thing for a lion to. That's how a lion eats. That's how he sustains himself, and feeds his pride and stuff. So I don't see that I can call that. I don't think I can call that just a natural process evil.
Right, so real quick, like with like the trolley problem, what would be your answer? Like the typical one, uh, the five versus one person.
I'd have to like preserve as much life as I can, I think. So I would I would pick to save the five.
So what if
Can I pick
you
up
knew?
Sorry.
Real quick, so what if you knew that committing a genocide was actually going to save people? How would you decide if it was?
Interesting.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's so many things that you can't really know, and I don't see how there could be a correct answer. Like, obviously, it's probably we're gonna assume it's bad most of the time, but this is like a hypothetical,
I think you're right. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to know if, if I save those five, well, it turns out those five are like gonna blow up my favorite building. Like, yeah, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't be able to know unless I had more details. Yeah, you're
Let's
right.
let's let Hogman interject here. Hogman, you had something to add?
Yeah, I think that Alex O'Connor's argument was mischaracterized, and I believe that the arguments that are against evil being real or true are just bad.
Yeah. Do you want to do
If
you
I,
want to
if I were to
clarify?
elaborate on the Alex
Yeah.
O'Connor
Yep.
comment, so the
Yep.
Alex O'Connor comment, he wasn't claiming that God wasn't real because of the what was the argument that you were talking about? Because of the you bring it up again.
All of the animal suffering, right?
Yeah,
Oh, the animal suffrage. The animal suffrage was a point to challenge God not being all good or all powerful or all knowing. Like that was the challenge there. It wasn't necessarily an all encompassing like God isn't real because animal suffering exists. It was if God is real, why would such a good God or all powerful, all knowing, all good God create a world where animal suffering would exist? And it's not necessarily animal suffering by itself, it's meaningless suffering, is the particular thing that he was addressing. Animal suffering is just like the best example that he could come up with at the time of the debate that he was having.
I'm gonna sound like a jerk, okay? But I'm not a jerk, okay? I'm just saying, what if somebody and this is why I don't think that Alex O'Connor's argument is that strong. What if somebody just said, well, look, it's just your opinion that you're suffering. Nobody cares that you're suffering, especially if you're an atheist. So and by the way, naturalism, the natural world is a horrible place based on all this unnecessary suffering. So anybody could just say that.
If I'm society, like all we could have to do is go down semantics on what suffering means and what society needs to be what suffering is, and then we can figure out a definition, and we can both agree that suffering exists. If your argument is to say that suffering doesn't exist because it's basically an opinion, it's just really, really bad.
I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm saying who cares? It's just your opinion.
Suffering is not an opinion.
Everybody here just said that it's a subjective opinion.
I don't think they claim, Trey, that suffering itself as a phenomena is the opinion. It would be the prescriptions born of suffering that would be the opinion. So the value sorting that you and I have talked about.
Like if I break an arm, if I break my arm or something, my suffering is going to be different from your suffering if you broke the same arm in the same place, because we're two different people living two different lives, but we're still suffering.
In cognitive science, in cognitive science, suffering is considered the experience of pain generally. So we understand, and people should know based on their epistemic standards, that the experience of pain exists, therefore suffering exists.
Okay, let me bring it back to the Holocaust, make sure I got you all correctly. The Holocaust had people suffering.
Yeah, and then born of that, Trey, would be the prescriptions on that suffering. Was this suffering good, bad, right, wrong, good, bad, righteous, wrongful?
Okay.
And then for me, I would say it's bad. And then I would say it was wrongful because they were victims of those who are trying to destroy their well-being, cause detriments to their well-being.
Bad? Is it always bad, or can it ever be good?
Well, it depends on one's, moral articulations. I would, because I do this all the time, I would like to, well, yeah, my perspective. It is ultimately an opinion, a value born of our sentiments, but I would like to let others articulate their stances.
Okay, bring it. But can you carry on, Hogman, from that line of reasoning?
So whenever it comes to, is there meaningful suffering? I mean, it really depends. Like, at the end of the day, your individual suffering, some people, there's multiple ways I can articulate this, but I'm going to start off by maybe the Holocaust version. Like, if you think the Holocaust was a good thing, then you would deem the Holocaust to be a worthy choice of suffering. However, the individuals that were causing the suffering, they would the people who were suffering would obviously disagree and say this is meaningless suffering because we didn't do anything wrong and we want our version of life or blah, blah, blah. But you can also find meaning in suffering as an individual as well, and this comes from being spanked as a child. However, the spankings are you can find meaning in the benefit of spankings as a person who has gotten spanked. However, science entails and psychology entails that spanking is bad and inefficient to other ways and more moral ways. Spanking works, however, it's not the best way.
But science is giving you the effect of spanking, right? It's describing what is going on. And yes, if we subjectively apply a standard of, say, maximizing well-being, physical, mental, and social health, then we can measure factually as to what spanking is doing by that standard and say that it's bad. But you kind of smuggled in normativity into the scientific enterprise there, Hogman. So what I think is important is that you articulate what your ethical system is, your standards. What is the good life? What is good, bad, right, and wrong? What moral metrics do you use?
can you elaborate and like relate it to the spanking thing? I mean, like spanking should be wrong or
yeah.
not
So
okay.
so if you say, and I bring this up and ask for specificity because I think it's a real problem. And I don't know if you're secular or an atheist, but in secular and atheist circles, when I ask people this, people who have been like debating these topics for a long time, they're kind of they kind of have a hard time articulating what I would say is more important than any of the epistemic quibblings they have with whether a God exists or not. The most important thing for me as a moral well-beingist is to see if the kind of good life you are promoting, the things that you think are good, bad, right, and wrong in the world, are consistent with my moral quest, which is to maximize well-being for myself and those around me. So I guess, are you operating on a type of consequentialism, deontology? Like, are you trying to maximize flourishing in the world, for example? And what kind of flourishing would that look like? Do you?
Unfortunately, I haven't really thought this deeply about
it's okay.
it, so I don't.
Yep.
Unfortunately, this is probably something that you could figure out from talking to me. But as far as like me articulating how I feel about the best way to go, I'm kind of like just going.
Yeah, that's a fine, honest answer, and this is something that does take work to do, and my quibble is not with you, but with secularism at large, secular people, atheists. I'm an atheist too. I'm a secular person, but they do not treat the ethical domain with due seriousness, and they when things start crossing over into ethics, they tend to start describing evolution or what science has to say and things like this, when what a religious person is typically trying to pull out of them is what are their prescriptive values, how does their their moral system function practically.
Well, I mean, I feel as though whenever, which is why I added on to like the science part, is like psychologists on top of that. So like studies will show that raising a child for being spanked versus not being spanked, it's better to not spank the child. I think that I kind of articulated it a little bit away from just the blanket statement of science.
Yeah. No, I understood what you were getting at. It was just missing the most important piece, I would say, from an ethics perspective, is what is your prescription born of your feelings, your sentiments? What axioms are those prescriptions serving? Like, for example, the axiom or presupposition that health is preferential to sickness, which all of us in the room surely accept axiomatically. So yeah, there's a lot of work to do there, but I understand what you're saying, and you would probably fall into the category of a moral well-beingist if you are looking to science and you see the results of spanking and what we've learned by way of spanking through things like child psychology and developmental psychology. You're probably caring in this particular moral instance about the detriment caused to the flourishing of the child by way of the suffering that is inflicted.
I feel like it's multiple things. I feel like I was a person who was maybe for spanking.
Okay.
And then once I heard the science about it, and then like I don't have a child or anything like that, but then it made me think about if I were to spank a child or were to spank, or if I look back on spanking my dog for doing something bad, I feel bad doing it, and it makes me feel like I'm causing suffering.
Right.
And I don't like that.
Yeah, and that would be an accurate intuition if, in fact, you think the good life and righteous behavior is that in which we are engaging in behaviors that seek to maximize well-being for oneself and those around them. Then you wouldn't. And if by well-being you mean physical, mental, and social health, which there are facts about, so long as you make those presuppositions by way of some kind of axiom, then you are going to be able to coherently and rationally point to spanking and say, no, that is bad. That is wrongful to do that because of the consequences.
I got one, Travis. You
That
believe
fucks me up because my name is Travis too.
such a common
Every
name.
time.
No, I'm kidding. So physical, social, and mental health. Why don't you have financial health on there, Travis? Don't you know
That's part of all
for
three.
you to have? Oh no, I think you gotta. That's got to be your fourth one. I mean, because you need financial health if you're gonna have physical, social,
but
and mental
finances are a means to an end. This is what I think finances should be viewed as a means to an end, as a means to maximizing well-being for oneself and those around them. So, I completely agree that physical, mental, and social health in the world we live in today is dependent on finances to some degree. Whether you're getting those finances from the government by way of disability or whatever, you need a way to get food, you need a way to get healthcare, you need a way to to have a social life as the kind of social apes that we are. Nobody is separated from the intersubjective space that is vital to maintaining high levels of well-being. So, but I don't get me wrong. Even though I don't make it explicit, it should be clearly implicit for anyone that's that's looking at reality and trying to understand one's well-being within the context of the reality we find ourselves in. There are surely caveats and weird outlying situations where one might find themselves in no need of finances. I'm sure we could come up with some strange scenarios, but in almost all cases, almost certainly the case that financial we are all financially dependent to some degree.
Yeah, I would make the argument that even I would say more so men are willing to risk their physical, social, and mental health to gain better financial health.
Well, not just men. I mean,
more so, I would say more so men, because I would say that women generally want men to make more money than they do, to be like a provider more so. I'm
That's not
speaking
true.
I'm speaking generally. Oh,
Yeah, I don't.
okay,
I
hang
don't
on.
think that.
Wait a second. You're Hogman, you think that most women want to make more money than, or sorry, you think that most women want their male partner to make less money than the women make?
Correct. So, what women
Oh.
actually want is not for their man to make more than them. What women want is security in their lives. And traditionally speaking, obviously, the men used to make more money before women were able to work. But if you really think about how, like, what a woman wants in her life is to be able to provide for their child, whether that be the man or herself or whatever. Obviously, if you're going to be in like Miami, like girls want to be like, you know, just fucking princess life the entire time, then that's one thing. But most women, generally speaking, are literally just wanting security for their life and their children and their family, and that's what it's going to be. They don't want to be poor. They don't want to be, you know.
I know that there are some people. I feel like we were in a really high resolution space, and then we started talking about generalities related to
it's possible
women. But yeah, I just want to make sure you capped off and you finished with what we were talking about before it breaks out into the gender studies conversation.
Yeah, that's fine. But I would say that people need finances, and I would say in most cases, people are, look, I think it's men. You can think it's women. I don't really care, but in most cases, I think men are willing to risk more of their social, physical, and mental well-being for more financial health.
So this is an empirical claim, Trey, and for me, I'll just care to know what the empirical data says. Like, I'm not going to take your word for it. I'm not going to commit an overgeneralization fallacy myself. Like, I would just want to see what the empirical data show, and if that is the case, fine, it's a fact. Then yeah, that's how I do fact finding. But I'm not sure if it's.
Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it could be wrong. It's just an empirical claim. I think it's better to bring the empirical goods when we make empirical claims. That's all.
Yeah. I think men, maybe we can pull from like some already established data. Do you think that men generally, I know you want specifics, but like men work more hours than women?
Yeah, but like, what's the point of having this conversation, right? Like, what's like the facts exist out there. We can find the facts, and then we're eventually going to state the facts. But what are we getting at? I would rather just say, okay, if it is the case that men work more than women, then what are we getting at? What's the substance of the conversation?
Well, I guess the substance is that the financial health is, I would argue, it is necessary for preserving physical, social, and mental health. Therefore, it's more fundamental than physical, social, and mental health.
Food is more fundamental than finances.
But you can't have food without finances.
I mean,
maybe you can get it somehow.
Right. You can get food stamps, right? And you can get there's all kinds of people who, like my grandparents, still grow and farm all their own food, for example.
Grow all their own food.
Yeah. So I think I know you're trying to you really want to make finances like really imperative, but more important than finances, shelter, food, education. Now, I agree in the part of the world we live in. Like, there are other parts of the world, for example, that like people don't have money. Like, we're all planning. For people that don't know, by the way, we're going to be building the first Pangburn Education Center in northern Uganda, right outside Gulu City, which is going to be a lot of fun. We're hoping to have this school built in 2027. We're just about to start fundraising for that, so keep an eye out for that. But in a lot of these areas, like food, shelter, education, the concept of like having money, for example, is just, it's not really a thing. Like there might be one person who has money, and then resources get distributed to all the other people, or in many cases that we've been working with, there is no money, and it's just, aid resources being provided. And yes, it's true that on a mechanistic level, there's some money somewhere involved in that chain of events. But if we're really looking at the individual, which this philosophy is, maximize well-being for yourself and those around you, I think there are things that are far more important than finances at the level that you're talking about, at like, what is most fundamental here, what is most widespread and needed for human flourishing. I just think that, in certain contexts, like in the context you and I live in, I mean, finances are imperative to achieve flourishing, physical, mental, and social health flourishing. But I don't think it's as universal as you might think it is to the individual, like worldwide I'm talking. And I see finances as in some cases, and most cases in my cultural context, as a necessary means to an end, and that end being maximization of well-being.
There's a deeper conversation to be had here, because Finances is just a tool. Finances is a symbol of value. Okay. And monetary systems only have the power that is given to them by the people willing to support that monetary system by where they place their value in. So there's actually a much deeper conversation to be had on the matter.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, that's the economic discussion about meta economics. Yeah.
Well, Travis, I can't believe you argued to not care about money, Travis. Wow.
Yeah, in some contexts, money isn't what matters. But money is a means to an end. It's just so important to flourishing nowadays in the way that the world functions in general. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I see why you don't want to put it as like your fourth. Three's a good number. There's a lot of threes in the Bible, by the way.
I think everything fits into the like when I examine the entire purview of the human experience, and I try to find things that can't fit into the categories of physical, mental, and social health. I can't find them. I've ran these experiments, and it's just, yeah, I mean, like anything like spirituality and meaning, things like that, that's going to affect your mental health, which is in turn could affect your social health and your physical health. There's no separating these things. They're all interconnected in this interdependence reality we find ourselves in. So
yeah. All right. Well, okay. I tried to get you to put financial up there. Failed. It's all good.
But I it's not lost on me the importance of financial health. It's very important.
You could also look at money and gods as useful fictions that humans have created for utility, basically.
Yeah.
That's what Aharon was saying. Yeah.
I got that from Harari, but
yeah,
I didn't come up with it. But I think it's a really good lens. Like, he's also like states and countries, and I forget some of the other examples.
Yeah. Some religions, like on one hand, they'll relieve you of death anxiety, but then they'll threaten you with hell if you don't live right. So, there used to be this idea that like religions primarily were a response to death anxiety, but I'm not so sure about that.
I think it probably does help a lot of people that are going in that route. How do you deal with people in their elderly age that are atheists that maybe are experiencing some kind of anxiety from that?
I mean, it's not too. I mean, it's happened quite a few times in the past 10 years where I get an email or a message from someone and saying like, I'm on my last legs, and it might be an elderly person, not always. Sometimes people who are just very sick, and there's questions about like, I don't really, there's some regrets there. Like, I don't really feel like I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. But when you get to talking with people and you start getting them to articulate their life, their journey, the things that they actually did accomplish, you're like, you accomplished mountains, and you should be, it's fine to be proud of that. And as far as like, the preparing for death and what death is going to be like, there are bleak ways to describe that, but there are also ways to alleviate people by way of modal possibility, the possible things that could occur. Not things that are likely the case or things that are almost certainly going to happen or anything like that, but what are some of the interesting possible scenarios that await you as you step over to the other side? These aren't outside the purview of the atheist experience, I don't think.
I was talking to somebody elderly today. But we're friends generally, like acquaintances maybe, and he says he's all good with it. He knows he's elderly, and he just kind of finished by saying, "Well, it's all in God's hands now. It's always been in God's hands." And I feel like with religion, it could be. I should say, it could be, if you are a believer, then you don't have to worry about it as much. Maybe I'm just talking about
no. I think you're right. Like, I think for people who feel as though they've lived, a life that isn't going to have them, worried about hell. I think those people are going to look at death, with more with rose-colored glasses than many other people would. So yeah, I mean, there is some truth. There is a reason why great minds like Bertrand Russell toyed with the idea that death anxiety seems to be one of the main purposes of religion. So yeah, I mean, and some people are so scared of death that maybe that would cause them to want to try, and put their best foot forward. I mean, we can bring up the insanity of Pascal's wager and that nonsense, but the way people will think that they can dupe the phenomena of belief or dupe a god, by making some kind of wager. But
yeah, it goes like, I'll live my life as if there is a God, because then it's like that's how that one goes.
You promise them something great to get them in, and then you promise or give them fear to keep them
in. Used car salesman, man. I swear, there's some used car salesman preachers out there.
Yeah.
How do you deal with people getting some kind of like serious illness?
Yeah, I mean, it's a terrible thing, right? For me, as you know, because we've had many hours of conversation at this point, what I care about most is the maximization of their well-being. So like, we've had conversations here before, like if it was a religious friend of mine, for example, and I'm going to be very conscientious that I'm not robbing them of any kind of maximization of their well-being in these difficult circumstances, by way of my beliefs. I want them to be as comfortable as they can be. I want them to be as healthy as they can be in these situations. That's what should matter to everyone most, not the epistemic quibblings about whether or not there is a God or whatever.
I know people that have had, like cancer or stuff like that, and I think you're right that you want to keep them on their well-being. Like, let's hang out and do things that you want to do. I actually had a friend when I was in high school that passed at a very young age from cancer, and yeah, we
that's terrible.
Yeah, man, cater to them, and but I guess that's another thing that religion I would say Christianity helps with at least mental comfort sometimes.
Yeah.
Me being in the army, like I joined at the army at such a young age, and I was trained to kind of prepare for something like that to happen, right? If we go to fight, it's totally possible something bad could happen. So that I guess that's kind of a sick way
There's a
to look at
saying
it,
for
but
that.
it is what it is.
There's
Mhm.
a quote for that. It's like there's no. How does it go? Like there's always religion in war, or something along those lines. I'm sure somebody will remember it.
Everybody's praying right before the test.
No.
Right before everybody
Famous
has to take the SATs,
quote
everybody's praying.
for-
Right. Well, everyone, I think this is a good time to hit the tavern. We have very good conversations here today. I want to thank everyone for contributing. This was great. We heard from some new voices today. Make sure, please, that you are out there maximizing well-being, physical, mental, and social health for yourself and those around you. If you're interested in attending a philosophical coaching session by myself, I have reopened my practice, and it is becoming quite full and overbooked, but I always will make time and space, even if I have to stay up really late at night or whatever for new people. So do get in touch with me. You can send me an email at travis@pang-burn.com, or you can message me here on Discord. That's an easy way to get a hold of me. These are 1 hour long sessions. First one's free, by the way, even if you just want to do one session, completely free. And yeah, we work on assisting you with your own conceptual articulations of your ideas. I've helped people, with concepts they're working on for their book. I help people, who are trying to get more practical things set up in their life, some goal-oriented conceptual organization and ideological reworking and things like that. So we get into a lot of interesting things. So yeah, if you're interested, you can get in touch with me. What else should I announce? We're going to be announcing 2 new live event dates, probably tomorrow, related to the No God debate tour. And yeah, so some more will be said soon about the Pangburn education centers that we are going to be building in Uganda. But thanks, everyone. If you're interested in joining our Discord server, those of you who are on YouTube, there's our Discord link right there. But we're going to be jumping down to our off-air voice channel, which is called Trav's Tavern. It's pretty easy to get there. You just click and you're there. So